Salutations, everybody.
What's up?
This is the Perspectives Podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Littyyy Bro Flacko. To my side is Holden Stephan Roy. Holden, say hi.
Hi, Holden.
That's right. That's the usuals. That's how we get down. um, this is the Perspective Podcast. We're here with our guest, legendary indie MC, EO Dub alumni, MC Challenge winner, MC Challenge of Champions winner, um, Lupe Fiasco's favorite rapper, causer of all sorts of havoc in the indie hip hop scene last year, Osyris Antham.
Facts.
Yo, it was a good job. What's popping? What's popping?
What's going on, man?
I'm chilling.
So we'll get
Thank
straight
you for
to it.
having me.
No, thank you. Thank you for making time for us.
Yeah, of
Let's
course.
get straight into it, right?
I'm not gonna lie. It's hard to say no to Danny. You know what I mean?
It's hard to say no to Danny, man. You can't say no to Danny.
Right.
But you know what I mean? Like, you're gonna be an asshole if you say no to Danny.
Fact. Fact.
People gonna be like, you said no to Danny? What the fuck wrong with you?
Right.
So we've been on this journey for like about a year now, Osiris, right? I'm gonna give you
Okay.
our
Bet.
every episode. I give everybody the origin story. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
Awesome.
that you're aware. So what happened was last year, me and a fellow Challenge of Champions winner of yours, Jess James Figueroa, right? We were doing the Littyyy Bros Volume 1 album, and
Copy.
we decided to use an engineer from Montreal to mix down the album, and that's the homie Merker Miyagi. And
Okay.
he might as well be a New Yorker, you know what I mean? Even though he in Montreal, because he's like one of them type of dudes that like, he like works with a lot of people through engineering, right? And then he doesn't promote any of them, because if you promote one of them, that means you got to promote all of them, and
That's
he
real.
doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to do
That's
that.
real.
So he doesn't promote anything that he really works on, but he ended up promoting our project, and that caught Holden's attention as a friend of his, because that made Holden be like, "Well, hold on a minute, you don't ever promote nobody
Holden from
that you
Montreal as
work
well.
with."
Yeah, I'm from Montreal.
Yeah, Holden is from Montreal as well,
All right.
and so he saw that he promoted us. He checked out our stuff, and Holden for a while there was doing a lot of album reviews, and so he did an album review on his own of the album, and it was fucking fantastic album review. And I was just like, "Yo, we should do an interview." And he was like, "It's funny you say that. That was the next thing I was going to talk to you about." So
Yeah.
we sat down, we did an interview, and Osiris, bro, let me tell you something. I felt like I fucking went to therapy after that shit. I was like,
That's
why have
beautiful.
I been in this fucking game this long and I've never talked about my life growing up,
Mm.
right? Like, it's always these fucking generic, annoying ass fucking hip hop questions, especially in the indie scene. They're super unoriginal. You know what I mean? It's super like, so when did you fall in love with hip hop? Like, which is just like, oh my God, shoot me if I have to answer that question again. Stop watching Brown Sugar. But anyway, so me and Holden did the interview, and it felt like therapy. And I immediately did the typical New Yorker thing, and I was just like, this was great. Now I got to put on all my friends. And so I was just like, yo, we should do a series together. And, I'll bring some homies to the table. And here we are. You know what I mean? This
Lit. I
time it
love
was
that.
Danny who brought the homie to the table, right? But we're all family of family here, especially in the New York City indie scene. You know what I mean? The
Hmm.
EO Dub family is absolutely a family, whether or not we're from the same fucking class or not, doesn't matter. We all just came from the same school, right?
Right.
But regardless, the point is, here we are. And so,
Listen, man. I love a good origin story. I love listening to the
right?
origin stories, right? Because we all
I
love
love
telling
telling
them.
the origins. I love telling the
Right.
origin story because
Hell yeah.
it was a genuine thing. You know what I mean? Like, it goes to show you how, like, sometimes you don't want to force. You know what I mean? I had through battle rap. I had a lot of uh, white Canadian fans. right?
Oh,
And
word.
right, white
Shout out to
Canadians tend to
Drake.
love. They
Is that
love
is that
battle
Drake's
rap.
fault?
No,
No,
they just love
I
battle rap. I think that they just like they for as friendly of a people as Canadians are. I think that they
Yeah,
like the idea of berating people to their face on a regular basis. So
right.
they
Because they're
take
not
to
doing it.
they yeah, because they're not doing so they take to battle rap like fish take to water. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
So so
We
right
love the drama that we're not a part of, right?
exactly exactly. So origin story out the way. Holden has a great set of questions that he brings to every interview, but I like to
Okay.
cut him off and make everybody start with a more traditional set of questions, even though it's not
Okay.
when did you fall in love with hip hop, which is can you introduce yourself to the people, give them your
Yeah.
aliases, and then
Okay.
tell them where you're from, and then tell them where your parents are from.
Okay, wavy. Yeah, my name is Osyris Antham. You can also know me as Nasir, Nasiyer, which is my birth name. My students call me Mr. Nas. And I'm from Brooklyn. My parents, well, I was raised with my mother and my grandmother and my grandfather. So my mother, if you want to be technical, she was technically born. She was born in England, but I wouldn't say that she's English. She's not British. But my family is Bayesian on my grandmother's side and Jamaican on my grandfather's
Okay.
side. So
Hey,
those are the flags I wave whenever we
yeah,
talk
yeah.
about the culture I'm from.
dope.
Shouts to your family.
Yeah, good looking.
I've been on a personal tirade lately. I just finished getting I'm constantly in Facebook jail, and
Okay. Oh, word.
I just finished getting out of Facebook jail recently. And one of my immediate topics that I was talking about was like the lack of knowledge that Black Americans in the country tend to have about the Caribbean overall,
Mm,
and how all of the islands in the Caribbean, we are kind of like our own family. It's like I shared a picture of women dressed in indigenous native garb
hmm.
dresses, right?
Okay.
And every island in the Caribbean has a different form of the like white dress with different colors added to it
Mm,
thing. You know what I mean? It
yeah,
it
yeah,
it
yeah.
just goes to show it's one of the many like things that all the islands in the Caribbean have in common. I also always mention like make mention of like how like in Jamaica it's a beef patty, in Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic and Cuba it's an empanada. But at the end
Empanada.
of the day, it's
Yeah.
still the same fucking thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. Fact.
It's some like pastry with some like meat in the middle. You
With
know what I
some meat in
mean?
the
Like
middle. Yeah.
you know, we all family in the Caribbean and shit. So that's dope. That's
Yeah, that's a
shouts to
fact.
your family.
I mean, one thing that I always like to talk about is Haiti's influence on American history. The Louisiana Purchase is something we always learn in school, and that only happened because Haiti won the Haitian Revolution against France. That's something that
Yeah.
when we talk about, just our connection to just culture in the Americas all together, like how we all
Mm-hmm.
have a part of that tapestry together. It's important to know that whole picture because
Absolutely.
we get into divides all the time. You know what I mean? Where it's the Yankees versus the coconut sometimes, so to speak. But it's really
Exactly.
all one. You
And it's
feel me?
all one. Yeah, that's the thing that like gets me riled up is where I'm just
Yeah.
I you know what it is that I had been watching a lot of there's this YouTube channel called Prim's Hood Cinema, and
Okay.
homie just like does like live reviews of like classic hood movies that we've all watched
Okay.
and shit. And
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I heard him like talking shit about Jamaicans, and I'm just like, my God, but I could hear the like southern in his like drawl, and like I know
Yeah.
that like outside of like Florida, New York City, Florida, it's kind of one of those things where like there is Caribbean all over the whole country, but
Hmm.
people don't seem to get very educated on it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
how much
And that's on
how
purpose.
tied to how tied together,
Yo, that
yeah, we
is
all
like
are through.
wildly different than Montreal. I'm not having like it is like everyone knows everybody. Like I've heard of every island, and everybody's proud of where they're from in Montreal, and everybody feels real connected to the islands. So that's like if like, listening to
Yeah.
this, it's like wow. I don't know if the rest of Canada is like that, but Montreal be like really connected to the islands.
I mean,
Yeah,
Montreal is not far from New York, so they have they have a huge Canada. Period has a huge Caribbean population.
Yeah.
Holden, by the way,
yeah.
your mic was
Oh.
doing that little thingy thing. You might want to fix that while we wrap up the conversation about the Caribbean and whatnot. I mean, but yeah, Canada has a huge right because Canada. A lot of us went up to Canada
Hmm.
in when America felt like it was, I mean, it's not like it stopped feeling like it's trying to kill us, right?
Yeah.
But when it felt even more prevalently, damning back in the days, you know what I mean? Like we migrated up to Canada a lot,
Yeah, it was a
a
lot
lot of
happening
it.
in the 60s, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s too, because
Hmm.
what you had, post World War II, you had what you called the Windrush generation, where a lot of Caribbean people were going to England because they were getting their citizenship, but then a lot of Caribbean people were coming to New York, and then also to Montreal and Toronto and whatnot during that time period. I'm not sure what was triggering it, but there was a lot of that action and energy. Even when you talk about like Dutters from Jamaica and Shower Posse and all them cats, they was coming from Jamaica and going up to Toronto and all them places. So like it was a lot of that was very recent too in the last 40, 50, 60 years. Like when my
Yeah,
grandparents came here, it was in the 60s.
a lot of great migrations happened in the last 50 to 100 years from the Caribbean into the Americas.
Yeah,
But we'll
yeah.
we'll we'll get more into that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll let Holden
Nah,
I'll
this
let
is super
Holden get to
interesting
his.
stills though. Like that's how the show works. You don't know that yet, but when
Yeah, no,
tangents
that's
happen, they
exactly it.
just happen. It just goes. But
I
we
love it.
we do have a more standard opening question that I just ask everybody. It's a little bit of a story, and then when it lands, you can just kind of run with it. And it starts off
Okay.
with my girlfriend, and she's washing the dishes one time, and she got her phone out, and she's playing the Black Eyed Peas song, the I got a
I
feeling,
got a feeling.
ooh. And she's vibing, she
Hmm.
dancing, she doing her things, and I look at her, and I have this thought, and I go, when the fuck did this song become chores music? Right? Because like if you think about this song in particular, and you run it back like a decade, this song is like the biggest moment song, like the highlight of the night, or it's a party, or it's whatever, and it's just celebrations and good times and positive energies. You run it forward a decade, and it's I'm washing dishes, I'm at the gym, I'm in some place where it's maybe a little bit boring, and I want to run it back to when I was having those celebration times, and it was like this big epiphany about
Hmm.
music, right? Because like the song doesn't change at all. It's the same song, but we evolve so much as people over time that like the context the music plays on our lives completely changes. And then I thought about how music and musicians are all on journeys. Like you have all these little 20-year-olds and they be out there doing their thing and they're not even like aware yet that in the future this is what their chores music sounds like. You know what happened when I heard Pop Smoke? I wash dishes to Pop Smoke now. And then it's like the cycle of music and age is just kind of like that. And it made me realize, like
Yeah.
Flacko touched on a little bit before with the interviews and stuff, everybody kind of starts at the same place. This adolescent era, the era where you form your identity. You start writing at this point. Your first favorite rapper is this. And it's like, I was thinking about it and I'm like, that's not really when anybody's musical journey starts. Like, there's a good chance in the hospital when you was born. There's a song playing in the room and little sound waves is being absorbed into you. And I started thinking about when I'm young. I can remember being 5 in Montreal. My dad's got all these gray boxes in the apartment, the preamp and the amp and the radio and the tape deck and all this stuff was with the wires going everywhere, the homemade surround sound experience. He'd be playing his Led
Hmm.
Zeppelin tapes and things in the day, but at night it was like the
Mm.
EDM straight from the clubs of Montreal playing live on the radio. My mom's flipped it up with her discos and musicals and love songs and all that other stuff. And you can mix in like the pop of the era, etc. And all of this created like this soundscape to the existence of my life before I had any control over what I was ever listening to. Now, keep in mind when I ask you this that most of us do not come from Brooklyn and most of us do not know what you mean when you go, nah, I mean. So, with that, can you bring us back to being the youngest Osyris Anthem you can remember being and tell us a little bit what it sounded like to be you before you had control over the sounds in your life?
Here comes the hot stepper, murderer.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit! That's a great song.
That's the earliest memory of a song that I had. I remember being in my stepfather, who's passed away now, in the back of his car, and I don't know, I might have been like 4, and I remember we were going down a bridge. And you know how your memories, like they say, like you might misremember how stuff actually happened when it's a memory from far. So maybe I wasn't on the bridge, but that's how my memory remembers it. But I remember being in the back of the car and hearing that song on the radio while we were driving down the bridge. Might have been the Brooklyn Bridge, might have been the Manhattan Bridge. I'm not sure, but yeah, Any Kamosi, Here Comes the Hot Stepper. One of my OGs, he tells me that when I was a kid, I used to always sing. What's that Foxy Brown song? Not Foxy Brown, the rapper. Foxy Brown, the Jamaican singer. Uh, Sorry.
Ooh,
It's all
that
I
you
can
can
say.
say.
So I don't
It
remember it,
goes
but my
down
OG told me I
the
always
league
used to sing that song when I was in his
like
whip.
sorry, my fault.
So
Nah, keep
nah, go
running.
ahead, let's get it. That's a vibe. That song
That's
is a
just
vibe.
joint. I was literally just listening to that song. I was
Ooh.
literally just going, and it's crazy that you say Hot Stepper because it was literally that song. That song. It was Mad Cobra with
Mm. With
Flex
Biggie.
or Time to
Oh
Have
yeah. Oh,
Sex.
flex, flex, flex.
Uh, and it was just a bunch of '90s dance hall jams that was just.
Mm.
I'm gonna date myself, but that was my, junior high school fucking school dance, grinding up on a girl for the first time in my life and shit,
Word,
era
Mad
and
Cobra.
whatnot. So what? So like I have
Damn.
super fond memories of all, and New York City was lit back then. You know what I mean?
Hell
Like
yeah, hell yeah.
with
I don't remember, but I believe you.
it was indeed lit, sir.
Oh yeah,
Ah,
that's a big one too, Danny. Yeah, I'm in love with a man
Man,
nearly
nearly
twice my
twice
age.
my age.
Don't know what it is. I guess
Mm-hmm.
I think for my youthful days. As I go my way, I don't care what the people say. I'm in love with a man nearly
Nearly
twice my
twice my
age.
age.
All right, well, jump in,
Oh,
jump
no.
Yeah, classic, classic.
so,
I appreciate that
so
question,
your dad,
Holden. Thank you.
so your dad was the one playing Aini Kamosi.
yeah.
Yeah, my stepfather at the time, yeah,
So like,
on the radio.
was music like a big part of life back then?
Yeah, definitely. When I was a kid, my mother used to play like music in the basement all of the time, like have like little dance parties. Um, I was even watching a little video of my of one of my family friends' wedding when I was like maybe 5, which I don't remember, but they had me on camera just dancing. Like I've always loved music. Since I was a kid, music has always been a huge part of my life. And then even when I turned 12, I had my first. So in school, we were playing recorders. In all
Yeah.
respect to the recorder, but I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm not gonna count that. But when I was 12, I joined a steel pan band, steel drums,
Okay.
and so like pretty much ever since, music has always been like the thing.
So outside of
Let's
music,
not, let's not, let me tell you something. Let's not downplay the recorder. There were some of us
Yeah,
that couldn't play the recorder. So
oh,
it wasn't as
I don't
easy as
remember a
everybody made
damn
it
thing I
seem.
played on that.
I can remember we got taught the Titanic song for some reason, and I can vividly remember
Oh
the
yeah.
notes of how to play the Titanic song on the recorder. Yeah, just like that. I can vividly remember that, but yeah, everyone kind of got that one. But like before, and I do want to go into the steel band stuff because that's super fascinating. But like when you were young,
Yeah.
outside of music, did you have any like passions that you were up to? Like, did you draw? Were you getting up to sports?
When well, how young would you say?
It's like a young one, before under 12.
around that
Under
Aini
12?
Kamosi age,
Yeah.
around
Nah,
those
I was just
memories.
Nah, I was just a mindless kid just running around doing whatever. My passion was maybe like Power Rangers.
I was gonna
Um,
say, so then like Power Rangers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was a thing for you then?
yeah. Yeah, I had a friend who was my best friend like when I was that young, and Power Rangers was our thing. That was
Understand.
like our
Yeah,
thing. Yeah, Power Rangers, hell yeah.
It's a big time,
yeah.
man.
Power Rangers for your generation, Voltron for my generation.
Yo, I
Yeah, I
watched.
remember the
Always.
day. I literally remember the day in school where somebody told me about Power Rangers. It was like second grade, and I went home and I remember the first episode I watched. That show was just like everything.
Yeah, I remember
Crazy.
that. I'm in that age group. I don't remember what grade it was, but I remember that moment and that whole first season, and then the Green Ranger and all of that good stuff.
Ooh, classic,
Then the
super
movie
classic. That's
came.
better television than anything they got out now.
Yeah. That's dope. So you get into steel band, and you kind of a little bit of a little run around singing just out of the hobbiness of it. And what's the steel band experience like? Does it go all out with the competitions, or is it more just like you learn how to play it?
Nah, we weren't being competitive. The band that I was a part of already had a rep and a name. It was a band from Guyana called the
Okay.
Chronicle Atlantic Steel and Brass Orchestra, and they had moved from Guyana to New York. And my pastor at the time, at the church that I went to, he had brought that band to our church from where they were, and it was part of just like the activities that they had for us in the church for the kids.
Mm.
And I was actually, funny enough, I was reluctant to do it, but my mother forced me to do it, and then I ended up loving it. We didn't compete, but we performed at different churches, we performed at different events around New York. So it was either playing, the Christian music at church events, or it was playing the Caribbean tunes at parties. And so that was a lot of fun. I played the tenor pan, I was front line. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's pretty fire, and I find it fascinating how you brought up church in the middle of this, because over and over again, there's like this church circuit that comes up, and anybody that went into the church circuit has a similar kind of circuit. I performed in front of audiences. The church linked us up to these things. I
Yeah.
was getting like 10,000 hours performing in front of crowds before I was even 16, and it's some wild shit to
Right.
hear about. And you were doing it with steel pan, which is a
Yeah.
very fun and energetic instrument.
Yeah. I mean, it gives you a connection to the music. It's like percussion, but it's melodic percussion, which is, so it's like you're getting the best of what the drums give you in a way, but then you're also getting the best of like what the vocals give you. And so you get to really party while you're playing it, especially being on the tenor pan where you're playing whatever the lead melody is. So you're partying while you're playing. It's a lot of fun.
That's dope. And is it? And I can imagine that um, that kind of just exposed you to like music at a different level. But did it like? When
Hmm.
does like hip hop or stuff like that start to come into the picture? Because usually, as you're getting into the teenage years, you move along in school. Do you start to like form your own taste of music at this point, or is it more immersed into the steel pan world?
Steel pan was more like of a hobby because I'm still here in New York. So even though that's a big part of who I am, the stuff that's playing on the radio, the stuff that's so my mother worked for a magazine. She was the editor in chief of a magazine at the time. And pre-streaming, downloading music, the labels used to send out free CDs to
Mm-hmm.
publications in order to get promotion,
Mm.
as y'all probably already know. And so my mother,
Mm-hmm.
because she used to run these magazines, she used to get free CDs like crazy. And so
Oh, so you had
the
you had
one
a shit ton of CDs with
shit
a
ton,
whole stamper stamped through the barcode, huh?
shit ton, bro. Shit
All
ton.
the
Right,
all the
right with the whole
whenever
stamp. I
all the
never knew what
promo.
that meant, but yeah, it's a fact.
That's what that is.
Hold up.
That's the
So you're
promotion.
like,
So the promotion, I could educate everybody on this
go
because
for
I
it.
used to work at the
Talk to
record
me.
labels and I worked marketing and promotion. So like this is for sure like a thing that I knew about, which is the
Got you.
fact that when they would print out the album, right, and whatever is their printout amount that they have for pre-orders from same way it works nowadays, right? Except that they were actually shipping product to the Wiz and Tower Records and Virgin Records and all these record stores that existed, and they would
Hmm.
send out. But then they would also have a CD sets aside for marketing and promotion usage, and those CDs would always have the stamp hole, a stamp hole puncher, like for the loose leaf paper, a hole puncher stamped
Hmm.
through the barcode, so that you couldn't resell the
Got you. That
marketing
makes
and
sense.
promotion stuff through the same outlets that, but it was all for naught. But especially back in those like days, like New York City was
Yeah,
wild
people
grimy.
still
I
flip it.
used
Yeah.
to, yeah, I used to stay going with the marketing and promotion CDs to like mom and pop shops. I'll say that much. I won't name any names, and they would buy them from me, and instead of like going through the label and shit.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I would
yeah.
make a little. pocket money, and they would have product that they needed at a discount instead of,
It's all good,
the
bro. You can
price
say
they
the
were.
name.
Yeah.
Statute of limitations is up, man.
No, I'm not even gonna blow them up. I ain't
That's
even
No,
gonna
fair.
blow them up.
Yeah. So basically, in the era when everybody might have been flexing that they were downloading on Napster or whatever, you were just like, it's all coming to my door, and you just got
no, this
everything.
is before
Or
Napster.
it's
This
even
is
before
before
that,
Napster. This is like the late 90s.
late
So
'90s.
Napster was '01. So yeah, mid to
Mm.
late 90s. That's when we were getting all the CDs. So I said that to say,
So this is the
my
Columbia
mother
House
was
days.
Columbia House.
I don't know if you have that in the
The
States. It was the magazine where you would like have the
the
CD shipped to
it's
your house.
you would buy one CD for 99 cents, and then
That
or
sounds
buy one
familiar as
CD for
hell.
$10, and then every CD after was 99 cents or something like that.
Yeah.
Something like
That
that.
sounds
Columbia
familiar.
House. It was that era. It was that era.
Okay, okay.
From what you're
Yeah, but
saying.
my mother, she would get all these CDs, and she would filter most of them. So like if she would get like I remember getting Hard like Volume 2, like before it came out, but she didn't let me listen to it because I had the parental advisory stick on it. But
Yeah.
sometimes a couple would slip through the cracks, and so I would get to listen to a couple of songs here and there. So I heard Money Ain't a Thing is the first Jay-Z song that I ever heard because I had the single CD in the crib. I was listening to Little Kim, Notorious K.I.M. I was listening to Nas, Stillmatic. So that was some of my early stuff. But the first album that I ever bought with my own money was, I believe, the Marshall Mathers LP bootleg. And then the first non-bootleg album that I ever bought with my own money, where I went to like an official store to cop it, was the Blueprint.
Mm.
Yeah.
So like when you were at
These are
that,
some monumental albums. I can empathize with the bootlegging, with the versus the official. My first tape was a bootleg tape. I had the
Yeah.
OPP tape.
Oh shit.
Bought from the bootlegger outside the supermarket and shit.
The cassette.
My mom, yeah, the cassette. My mom
Mm.
didn't know what she was buying me. Then my older brother blew me up and told her what OPP stood for. I got my ass beat, and they took the tape away.
Yeah.
Strict ass Caribbean parents.
yeah, I only ever bought official tapes or off the radio stuff. There was no bootleg
Bootleg is a
guy
huge.
for
That
me in
bootleg
my
is
life.
huge in New York City. Huge
Yeah.
market in New York City.
But bros used to have the blanket laid out on the street.
Yeah,
Remember those days?
yeah,
Had the blanket
yeah.
laid out on the street with your CDs and your DVDs. You
Mm.
feel me?
Yep.
Man,
To this day,
those
Tupac is the
days.
only guy to run up on one of those guys.
For real, he did?
Yeah, he did. Like in the middle of his
Yeah.
era, like before Death Row, actually. Um, yeah, shouts to Tupac.
Shouts Tupac. So when you get into when you're buying all the CDs and whatnot, at this point, do you want to rap or whatnot, or are you just like a fan of the culture?
Nah, at the time I was just a fan. Jadakiss was my first favorite rapper. And I remember one time I flipped like a line that he had stuck in my head when I was like 12. But other than that, I wasn't into rap. Like I wasn't into the idea of rapping. I was just
Right.
into just listening to rap and enjoying it.
But you also had the steel pans going, so you definitely had this creative outlet that you were running. And how long did you do the steel pans for?
Mhm. About 4 or 5 years, from like 12 to about, I would say maybe 12 to 19, so maybe 7 years.
So it's basically like your
Yeah.
middle and high school years.
Yeah.
That's dope. And as you're going through that, like when does the desire, I guess, to move in towards hip hop like kick into your life?
16, 15, 16. I had one of my bandmates, Chantel. Shout out to Chantel, wherever she's at. We used to just playfully like battle rap with each other
Right.
while we used to be on our little trips, going to different shows. Um, and then it was one day when I was in the high school that I graduated from, and one of my teachers was, we were doing poetry. I had a poetry teacher for the first time. And I think I started to realize I had a little bit of a knack for putting words together. And around that time, I ended up just writing my first verse, and my first verse was written to Alchemist Bangers by Lloyd Banks, that beat.
Right.
That's when I was 16. Yeah.
And so from that point, are you showing it to people? Or are you kind of doing it by yourself? Or are you getting, because there's a lot of routes that can go from there.
Yeah. At 16, that first verse, I read it to my sister. She liked it, and I read it. I think I read it to my mom. I can't remember, but that was about it. And then I had a homie in school, Kish. Me and him used to kind of just like, he was into rap, and so he used to make whole rap songs. They were all at the time we thought it was the dopest and most fun shit in the world. Looking back on it, it was all probably garbage, but it was a lot of fun for us. And so he used to make like little diss tracks to
There we
guys that
go.
he was
Then it
cool
couldn't have been
with.
garbage.
Nah, it
If you
couldn't.
were
Right.
having fun, it couldn't have
Them
been
shits was
garbage.
And
hilarious.
also
We was having a
garbage
good time.
can also be reinterpreted as raw to the music professional.
True indeed. True indeed.
Mhm.
Actually, I shouldn't be using the word garbage. I try to stay away from using that word. But since I was talking about my content, I thought it was okay.
Yeah. You felt it's okay I feel you. I do the same thing. Well, I'm just like, damn,
But
I'm
then
over
it's
here
like here, and I'm like,
self-deprecating. It's no big
I
deal.
bet your
Yeah,
16-year-old
exactly.
bars were fire for 16-year-old bars.
I don't know, bro. I appreciate that though.
There's always a glimmer of the things. Like I have a friend, my best friend, right? This was the
Yeah.
best man in my wedding. My brother has known me since I was like about like 16, turning 17. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And to this day, that man, we cannot have more than 3 drinks before he's in my ear telling me how proud he is of me and how
Love
he
it.
remembers that I had said some line about I'm incredibly hype like the Hulk on Coke in a freestyle back when I first started rapping. That he was like,
Yeah.
I knew then when you said that shit that you had something.
You had
You
it.
had some, you had something. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where like I don't look at that. I don't even remember that line. If it wasn't for him constantly saying that to me, I wouldn't remember that
Yeah.
line, right? But for
Yeah.
him, it's one of those things
Mm.
that just sticks with him. And that was like he knew at that moment, like my little brother got something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like even if it wasn't like what you presently can do, right? Because we always are constantly comparing ourselves to our best. You know what I mean?
Right.
It might not be that, right? But I'm pretty sure that there was glimmers
Mm.
of what was to come in there. You know what I mean?
Facts.
Because
Thank you, bro.
it's like that for all of us. It's like
It's
that for
true.
all
Thank
of us.
you, bro.
And even if it wasn't that bad, I bet you couldn't write that 16-year-old stuff again. So it's almost like this moment of time piece. That's the end
Yeah,
of it.
yeah.
It would be harder for you to do
Yeah.
that now than it was then.
True indeed. Well said.
Nah, for real. I really believe in that. I've had a few moments in my life where somebody's told me the worst song in my life that I've ever made, and it's arguably everyone else agrees with me. It's garbage sounding. It was his favorite, and it fucked me up for a while because it broke all the rules. If like people can find favorites in your least favorite things, like it's kind of weird what people like in music. And then you go to avant-garde
Yeah.
Yeah.
land, and avant-garde music shows you that people like some weird stuff. But
Yeah, those is
I
facts.
think
I
it's
literally
okay.
just finished sharing like a Facebook memory post that I made of like I remember when I was young and I used to love unorthodox rappers. Now I hate that shit. Rap on beat, you fucking Nancy. But like there is absolutely like I was super, when you're a teenager, you're at your most rebellious and like I
Hmm.
think that we all go through this whole huge like I hate everything in the music industry phase of our lives.
mm,
Some of us it lasts longer than others, right? But we all go through this phase, and it's usually around your teenage years when you're becoming, that teenager that's like, Mom, Dad, I have thoughts of my own, I have opinions of my own,
Hmm.
teenager, which is somewhere between 14 and 16, and then
Yeah.
it lasts definitely all the way through your like early 20s, like till like maybe like right after college year graduation type shit, you know what I mean,
Hmm.
type
Yeah.
vibe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I said, for some people it lasts the rest of the way through. But you go through, and I went through that at that time, and like I was a super huge anti everything in the industry and was like, yo, anything unorthodox in the underground scene, you know, I
Was your
always
shit.
gravitated towards at that era.
Yeah.
What when you were around done with the steel pan, right? When
Yeah.
is it
Yeah.
that you started um getting into actually executing, doing your own thing with rapping?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a slow process, man. Honestly, shout out to your homie who never forgot your first rap. You know, a lot of it was kind of guided by homies, man, where it was kind of, I was just doing it and I didn't have like this innate sense of, oh, I'm nice at this. I didn't think I was that good at it. But when I joined my fraternity, when I went to college, I went to Hunter College, and there was an older brother in my fraternity. He uh he was really taking me under the wing. He was the one that was encouraging me. He was like, "Yo, you got a talent, bro." It was him. It was him, and Shorty was his girl at the time. They were both like older than me in my frat, and they both encouraged me, like, "Yo, you nice. You should do that." And so I used to hop in the cipher every single day. His name was Billy the Kid. He used to have a cipher in the frat room every single day, and I used to hop in the cipher, flexing my freestyle ability. And I learned I had a little knack for it. And so I remember that first winter of college, that first winter break, I was in the crib every day freestyling over beats for like a half hour, for an hour, downloading crazy beats, downloading everything, whether it was the most gangster shit to like JoJo. I'm downloading all instrumentals and I'm freestyling over all of them. And I come back to school and I'm in a whole new bag. I'm going crazy. Niggas is like, hold on. And so at that time, I was really on my shit. But it wasn't something where I was like, yo, I have a passion driving for this. Like
Right.
I was doing it in the ciphers, but I was so busy caught up in like school shit and like hanging out with friends and partying and things that was going on with me personally. Music wasn't really front and center, but that was the first time where I realized I had a talent. And I was doing more poetry than anything, I would really say. But I was only going to open mics maybe once or twice a year, doing open mics here and there randomly. I had a poetry group that I was a part of called the Black Hole. It was me and two of my homies, and so we used to perform every once in a while. But it was pretty much just poetry and not like super strong in the rap. So rap was kind of here bubbling underneath. You know what I mean? Like so. This is
Mm-hmm.
a weird metaphor, but Shaq poetry was my Shaq in the Lakers dynasty, and rap was my Kobe. And it wasn't until, Shaq went away that Kobe ended up being front and center. You feel me? If that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah,
But at
big
that
fact.
first time, it was just poetry. Like, all right, this is what I'm doing. Because I couldn't even really rap. I couldn't rap a whole verse on beat, bro. Like, anytime I tell people that, they're like, yo, that's crazy. But it wasn't until like 2009 that I was able to write an entire verse and then keep the whole shit on beat. Like it was a work in progress for me for real.
Yeah.
Some of us are it's like that, but like not a lot of people like to give the fantasy version, right? I mean, it's not
Right.
a fantasy version. It's just
Yeah.
that it's become this kind of, there are certain tropes in the culture that we kind of like tend to recognize, right? Which is like oh, I don't even write my rhyme. I don't even write rhymes.
Or
Yeah.
Everything's in
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
head. I'm this incredible supercomputer, and then there's the like oh, I just started making music yesterday and I'm already signed because I'm the
Right.
greatest,
Yeah.
And then there's the like, oh yeah, I just was nice off
And
rip.
those
I
and those
was just
stories are
always the
dope
best.
too.
And they are dope because it's like, yo, I
Yeah.
believe you. It probably was
Yeah.
that for you. You know what I mean? But it's not
Yeah.
like that for everybody. And I can empathize because it was
nah,
the same for me.
I
Like
relate to that
it
heavy.
wasn't like oh, this just, no, I had to practice. And it's the same thing. It mostly started out with what essentially can be described as poetry because there was no flow to what I was doing, sir. So
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
call
Yeah.
that shit, let's call that eccentric shit poetry. You know what I mean? Like, there was no cadences there and shit. So, let's call it something else because that wasn't hip hop.
Right.
But I can empathize with that because it was the same thing. I had to work at that shit. And luckily for me, I was blessed enough to have many around me who nourished
Right.
and fueled what I had going. So,
Yeah.
so did you say what college it was that you were at?
Hunter, right?
Hunter College.
Hunter. So you were staying in the
Yeah.
city. So you were local. So you
Yeah,
had the
yeah, I was local.
advantage of like being like, it's not like you left the city to go
Hold
like
up.
somewhere else.
Colleges in the city have frats? I don't know a lot about
Yeah,
American
man.
colleges.
New York
Yeah.
City, yeah. There's
Yeah.
there's NYU in New York City. There's like, even if you were to, like the Ivy League schools, the regular schools, the all
Fair.
the
I mean,
yeah,
like, I know there's like
yeah.
frats and
Right.
stuff in the Montreal stuff, but like nobody ever went to them, and that I know. Like, I know like a fraction. So it's like, I don't know. The whole American system's a little different.
Fraternity culture is crazier in the South. Like, it's way more intense. And it depends. And it also, like, there's kind of a difference. Like, this fraternity culture, then you got like Black fraternity culture, like the Divine Nine, and that's like its own very specific historical thing. But when you talk about the South, you talk about the Midwest, and especially because people are going away, and then when you go away to college, the fraternity kind of becomes your family. Like, it becomes
your
your
new
support
family.
system.
Yeah, I was
Yeah, you know
literally
what I
gonna say
mean?
that it's just your new, right? Like you're thrust away from the nest and the only
Right,
family you've known your whole life, and
right,
you're thrust into your own. You're an adult. Be by yourself. The natural human instinct is to now form your own
community,
clan and tribe
facts,
and community and family, and that's
facts.
who, you know what I mean. That's why there's so many strong bonds that are created. And the music industry, there's a huge prevalence of like the Black fraternities and sororities and the bonds that are made there the way it should be, because that's the
Right,
way all of white corporate structures work, is they have
right.
their own bonds of like, oh, you went
Hmm.
to fellow hoity-toity school, sir? Like, you're also a Harvard alumni, like, and
Right.
then business gets
Yeah.
done that way. And we're talking about companies that like influence the whole entire world. So like,
Yeah.
if like little old, fucking Bad Boy Records, decides to use its Black college connections and shit like that to
More
further its
power.
business, it's more power. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Sorry, I went on a
Facts.
tirade.
No,
Nah,
it's a good
that's what it
tirade.
is.
Nah, to me, it's interesting. I never heard of that fraternity you mentioned. To me, it's new information. Like, it might be like regular for
Yeah.
you, but even Hunter College, I've heard of its name a couple of times. It didn't register
Yeah.
to me that that's
Yeah,
in the city.
Hunter's one of
Like,
the Hunter is, if I'm not mistaken, right? You went, right, so you can say, I think it's what you could essentially consider one of the most prestigious community colleges. Is it a community college, Hunter?
No, it's not a community college. It's a CUNY school.
It's a CUNY.
Um,
Okay.
I don't
but
even know what that word
it is
means.
there's like a crop of schools that are like the CUNY stands for City Universities of New York. I think
Okay.
that's what it stands for. But yeah, they're all schools that are like the
Yes.
official schools of New York City, and then you also have
Mm-hmm.
SUNY, which are like the official schools of New
The
York
state.
State. So like
Mm-hmm.
Syracuse, I believe is Syracuse a SUNY school, or am I bugging?
I don't know. My wife went to Syracuse,
Okay, yeah,
but
Danny's saying it is.
I didn't ever go to college, so like I'm
Right.
not. That's why I'm always kind of playing just like guessing game, what I remember of being told and shit. But it's a CUNY, which is
Yeah.
also a prestigious group to be bunched into. You know what I mean? Like I mean,
Yeah, maybe.
I have a question.
prestigious, right? Like we're like it always depends. The grass is always greener on the other side, right?
True,
Like
that's a good point. Yeah.
if you went to Harvard or Yale or whatever, Princeton, like you're gonna look
Yeah, one of
down
those Ivy
on
Leagues.
anything. You know what I
Facts.
mean?
Yeah.
If you went to Howard, you're gonna look down on wait, what's the other eight HU not
HBCU. You
Hampton,
might.
Hampton. You're gonna look
Yeah.
down on Hampton. If you went to Hampton, you're gonna look down on Howard.
Yeah.
If you go to
Morehouse looking down
Columbia,
on
you're gonna
Clark.
if you went to Columbia, you're gonna look down on Hunter. But if you go to Hunter, you're gonna look down on maybe like
Listen,
you
I
know,
feel.
enter
Listen,
community college here, you know, like
I
John
failed
Jay
out
or
of Hunter,
something.
so they look down on me for sure.
So what did you study that you failed out of?
My first year, I forgot was my major was supposed to be psychology, I believe,
Mm.
but I really wasn't going to class just to keep it funky. I mean, I was spending a lot of time rapping in the ciphers and doing a lot of frat shit, so it was all for the good, but I really
Yeah.
wasn't going to class. But
I was gonna
psychology was
say,
going to be my intended major.
was that the reason that you wasn't going to
Yeah,
class? Which is
yeah. I
like
just
those
graduated. I
that
graduated in a different way, we could say.
I mean,
You
you
know.
by then I'm sure that you were, correct me if I'm wrong. You were missing class because you had already gotten your first fix of being the man with the bars.
There we go. We
I
could take
mean,
that.
and then I just
Once you
like,
get your first hit of that
and,
drug,
and like,
it's another thing. You
and
know what I
life's
mean?
kind of wild,
Once you've
right?
had that feeling of a group of people in a circle oohing and
Yeah.
eyeing at the things that are coming out of your mouth, once you get that feeling, you're like, I'm not gonna do nothing else with my life. Clearly, I am an orator of master status, and I must pursue this as a career. What am I
Arguably,
talking about here?
you've had quite
Yeah.
like an interesting year, all things considered, to justify the good use of time of skipping class to go be in the cipher. Cause yo, when you're like in a
Yeah.
position where you're hearing a bunch of artists' life stories and they're like, "Man, I made the irresponsible." I'm like, "Did you really make that choice? Cause look at your life now. Look where you at. It seems like you made the right choice for your life." And it's
Yeah.
dope. Cause like, I mean, I just watched you like on that live stream win a bunch of money on a fucking competition and stuff. So I mean, clearly, you know, unlike a lot of people, you managed to pull it somewhere, and that's pretty
Right.
impressive.
True indeed. Thank you,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah. Nah, we'll get to the accolades. Let's keep on going through this. Let's
Yeah,
keep on trudging through this life story. You know what I mean? So you're presently in college and you're doing the circuit of rapping for the homies, killing it in
Hmm.
ciphers at school, outside of school. What else
Hmm.
is going on in your present journey in life and in music?
Um, Around that time. So yeah, I would say so. Boom. I was I failed out of Hunter. I ended up going to Kingsborough Community College, and I was actually there was actually this acting class that I was in that I really liked. But then I had to make money, and so I had to stop. I just stopped going to school. Period. And I was just like, all right, let me just work. I started working. Then, long story short, I ended up working at Starbucks. Now, mind you, at this time, rap is not really present in my life. This is like 2010, 2000, yeah, 2010. Rap is not really present in my life. I'm a regular civilian. I go to open mics maybe once or twice a year, maybe once. And I'm working at Starbucks. I'm literally just trying to become a Starbucks store manager. And, I become shift supervisor. Shout out to my
Hey,
manager at the time. His name was Kevin. He was a very great dude, very great guy. I really appreciated him. He helped me just like do some personal stuff. And he ended up leaving and I had a new manager. Long story short, with that, um, when she came, she brought somebody, her friend, his name was Baxter, Baxter Wordsworth. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
mm.
we've heard
Um,
of this gentleman. Yes.
and he, me and him became cool. And he had mentioned something called end of the month, end of the year. I don't remember the name, but yeah. And so he's telling me about this thing, and I'm like, all right, cool, that's dope. Oh, you rap? That's dope. I rap too. I write songs sometimes. Yada 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 yada. 2012. So there's a couple of important. So I'm trying to remember everything, and things are
Right.
coming back to me. So I'm not really performing that much, but I'm still involved in like my fraternity stuff. I remember my frat was having a show in January of 2011, no, February of 2011. And this is like one of those like watershed moments. And the night of the show, it was a J. Cole concert. And I loved J. Cole at the time. And so it was like I'm either gonna go perform and have my first solo rap performance ever, or I'm gonna go see J. Cole. And it was the toughest decision in the world, but I decided to just go perform and not see J. Cole, even though I was dying to go see him. This is when Friday Night Lights had just come out, and I was just like fiending. But I ended up going doing a show, and I had my first rap performance ever. and people loved it. I had written this song over Nicki Minaj, "Moment for Life," and that song was always important to me because I had writer's block at the time, and I literally was writing the song about like having writer's block and how I'm responding to it, and I ended up turning it into like this song that had like this little anthem. So my fraternity's name Alpha Phi Omega, and I made like this little anthem for my frat. I roll with the Alpha Phi Omega. Um, and so I had worked that anthem that I had made into the song. And so I was at the school, had everybody turned up. And that was my first time having a performance as a rapper. And it was important that like niggas was fucking with my shit. You know what I mean? And so I didn't see J. Cole, love you, but that was an important rap moment.
Great,
Do you want me to
great,
pause or
great,
should I
this
continue
great,
talking?
great, great fucking decision that you made there, by the way.
Right.
Like you should if you could, you know, the multiverse hop back into the past through the microverse to thank yourself, you should do
Right.
that. You know what I
Facts.
mean?
That was a good
That's
Yeah.
the
choice.
that's the moment of the like the choice. You know what I'm saying? Like you could
Yeah.
have
Hell yeah.
it could have went totally different. Your life story could have went totally different
It's like a
if
whole
you went to that
movie
J.
like
Cole
based
show,
on
I
that.
you
felt,
know?
listen, hold on. I feel that way about so many things. Like I don't want to get like too into like the things that I just think about with my journey and whatever. But like even me going to Hunter, a lot of my rap career is because I went to Hunter College and met the people that I met. And literally the only reason I went to Hunter was for like some frivolous reason that actually I was incorrectly informed about. And I had written only two schools on my application form for college. It was Brooklyn College and Hunter. And my friend
What
told
was
me,
the
which
frivolous reason?
so at
I'm
the
super
time
Love to know
I
curious.
wanted
it.
to stay. No, no, no. I wanted to stay in the dorm, right?
Hmm.
And at the time, my friend said, if you can get into both schools, because she worked for CUNY, and she was like, if you can get into all the schools that you applied for, they just put you in the school that you put first. And so I was gonna put Brooklyn College, but I was like, you know what? I want to stay in the dorm, so let me put Hunter first. And my grades were good enough for me to get in either, and so I ended up going to Hunter. But what I didn't know at the time is I couldn't stay in the dorms because I was a New York City resident, and the dorms are only for people who weren't from New York.
Out of
So
town.
if I knew that before I filled out the form, I
Yeah.
probably would have put
You
Brooklyn College first, just because I was more familiar with Brooklyn College. And so I just put
crazy.
Hunter first for this privileged reason. But then I meet all these people who have like this huge influence in my rap career, and then like to even tie that to something that was, even more interesting is I know James Pro I think James and Pro said they met at Hunter in 1996, and I started at Hunter in 2006. And so, stuff like that is just always just like,
Okay.
Super
what do you
Yeah,
say,
no,
interesting.
universe?
Super
there's
interesting
a lot
stuff.
of
Right,
there
Danny.
I'm not a huge believer in I don't believe in like religion, and I don't want to like derail from anything. I'm just saying it to say, even as a person
Mhm.
that doesn't believe in any religion, doesn't think that there's any like, divinity out there causing everything, there is so much shit that happens on earth, that has happened, that I've lived through, that the earth has lived through, right? That is just
Crazy.
unexplainable. Like you
Right,
explain to me, you know, all these things that are just intangible.
right.
Like show me what love looks like. Like, oh, good luck. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Show me what air feels
Or
like
like,
breathing in. Like there's no tangibility for these things, but they
Yeah, but it
exist,
works
and
for us.
they, and exactly, and these numbers and these things that we walk into like without even realizing, and how it all is interconnected and weave together is just, something special.
Word, word.
yeah,
So you were saying about
Subway meeting or not Starbucks, sorry, and you met Baxter, and
Yeah. Okay, yeah, yeah. So hold on. Yeah. So boom. So I had that first performance, 2011, my first rap performance. Dope. Fast forward exactly a year later. Um, Oh wait, I mean, there's so many details.
it's
I guess
alright.
some details I can leave out. Um, so fast forward a year later. Shout out to my homeboy Jason. he doesn't do music anymore, but he was like one of the first dudes that got me to like write my first songs. And fast forward to 2012, uh, Trayvon Martin passes away, and I decided to write this song over the Niggas in Paris beat called Niggas Will Perish. And it's just talking about, just the reality of all the stuff that's just like super in our face now, 10 years later. But just the reality of, just like Black people and police brutality and the system. I do this song, dedicated to Trayvon Martin. And this song was important because it was like my first really good song. I had written a couple of songs before and they were cool, but this was my first song that was like specifically about something. And I felt like it was really good. I performed it at my school. People loved it. But nothing past that. Fast forward a year later, I get, okay, hold on, let me make sure I'm pacing myself. So that was 2012, he passed away January. He passed away February 20th, 26th. When did he pass away? I forgot when he passed away. I think it was February 26th of 2012. But he passes away. I write that song in April. Fast forward a year to January of 2013, I get fired from Starbucks for some bullshit. Now, mind you, remember I told you I was trying to be like a store manager. So like Starbucks is like
2012.
Yeah, I mean, like rap is not my first focus. Trying to be a store manager at Starbucks is like one of my first focuses. But then I get the universe, universe at work again. I could tell you this story very lightly, but ironically, somebody that I was working with was stealing tips. We find out the person is stealing tips. I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna start doing tips now. And then somebody from another store thinks I'm stealing tips. I wasn't stealing tips, but then my manager wanted to get rid of me anyway. So I ended up getting fired because of that. And so I get fired from Starbucks. I'm kind of like in a very bad place because I'm just like, all right, what the fuck do I do with myself now? I end up working at Home Depot. But losing a job at Starbucks was a very important thing because I went from working this full-time job to me having more time on my hands and allowed me to be able to like be open to music again. And all of this stuff was just organic. It wasn't me like innately moving towards it. I'm working at Home Depot. That's relevant because I needed to get a new shirt for work. And there's one day I'm on Fulton Street. I'm walking down Fulton Street, and there's this place called Nicholas Brooklyn. And I walk in only because a friend of mine had taken me there years before, and I'm like, oh, I remember they have some nice stuff in here. I walk in, they're having a poetry competition. This is summer of 2013. They're having a poetry competition, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll sign up. I sign up for the poetry competition. I lose first round, but they have an open mic at the end. The host of the entire event was his brother named Joshua Sarah. Shout out to him, one of the most talented people I ever met. And at the end of the show, they do the open mic, and I perform the Trayvon Martin song "Niggas Will Perish," and they love it. Now, mind you, I told you before this, hip hop rap performance, I'm doing like maybe once or twice a year. After I do that show, Joshua was like, after I do that performance, Joshua was like, yo, that song is fire. You should come to my weekly open mic. He has this weekly open mic called The Sunset at this restaurant that isn't around anymore on Atlantic. And I start going to his open mic on a weekly basis, as well as going to the Nicholas poetry and rap competitions every month. And that was really like a very important kind of like second inception of second birth or rebirth of my rap career, because now I'm in a position where I'm performing weekly. And that really kind of started the snowball effect. And I don't know if y'all want me to stop there, if you have any questions.
Nah,
Continue.
I mean, I don't know if Flacko
Yeah,
has any, but this
I
just
mean,
feels like you got a great flow going on right here.
Yeah, because I don't want to ask because like I don't want to lead you anywhere. Keep on leading us through your life story.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's dope.
I bet. So I'm at Nicholas, going to Nicholas Brooklyn, going to their events. Whoever's listening, please shop at Nicholas Brooklyn. Very dope spot for all your Afrocentric essentials. But anyway, I'm going to Nicholas Brooklyn monthly. I'm going to the Sunset weekly, being creative, finding myself, learning like just different things I'm able to do, getting more affirmation, meeting new artists, and just being part of like an artist community for the first time. So remember, what was that guy's name? Baxter Wordsworth, right?
Mm.
That I knew from Starbucks. He comes and he battles me at, oh, boom. So they had this rap competition, and it's a freestyle rap competition that they're doing every month. And so I win it the first month. I win it the second month.
Okay.
And then one of the months, Baxter comes, and he's performing it, and then we battle. And I beat Baxter. I'm not like trying to, but so the reason why I bring it up, I'm not saying like I beat. No, no, no. It's a very important reason I'm bringing that up. So the reason I'm bringing up that I beat Baxter is because as some Littyyy, Flacko, you already know you're a battle rapper. A lot of cats get in their feelings. They be salty. Everything should just be in the ring, right? And so
Yeah.
what I always appreciate is even though I beat Baxter in that battle, he's not the type of cat who felt some type of way about anything. And then he was like, after that, he was like, "Yo, you're nice. Let me put you on to this." And a lot of
Yeah.
brothers, unfortunately, that doesn't happen a lot of times. You know what I
It does
mean? If
not.
somebody feels some type of way and they're like, "Oh, this person beat me. I don't like them, so I'm not gonna." Baxter's mindset wasn't that. Baxter's mindset was, "Oh,
Hmm.
he's nice, so let me put him on to this,
Let
that,
me
and the
put him
third."
on to
So
everything that I know.
right, so that's why I bring that up. Shout out to Baxter for that.
Shut up, Baxter.
And so Baxter puts me on the
Word.
Freestyle Mondays. Freestyle Mondays, I'm not sure if y'all are aware of, ran by Ill Spoken. It's one of the
Ran by
longest
Yeah. Yeah.
Ill Spoken.
Also, real
Yeah,
quick, I would like to say to everybody, be the change that you want to see in the world. And
Mm.
like what you just heard about Baxter doing, like do that always, like in
right.
everything. And believe that there's good coming to you somewhere down the line in life. It might not be when you expected, it might not be what you expected, but there's going to be a mighty comeback for you for being good. I've noticed that the older that I gotten, the more that I've, leaned on that more principle, more, and I don't care what I get back from anybody that I'm giving to. I'm giving genuinely out of my heart, and the more that I do that, the more that I see the flourishing and nourishment in my life just
Hmm.
keep on excelling and excelling. And
True.
it's because of that. It's about, you know what I mean? Like always be in service of others, and you're gonna find that there's gonna be people that are willing to be in service of you.
I
Word.
appreciate that. I wouldn't even be here talking to you, if I wasn't trying to live like that. That's how you end up getting to places where you
Yeah,
can like. You're a really interesting dude. I mean, there's a lot of humility in the way you're telling your story. Like even just how long it took, or the I don't know. Like you have a very realistic story. Like it's so if you put it into a book with the right steps, people could like read that and like almost replicate this model because it really is. I took my time, I figured it out, I got comfortable with it, and then I went on to and that's like a really cool
Yeah.
story.
yeah, and
Thank
it's
you, man.
very what more right, like realistic in the sense of like not everybody has the like, I was the greatest thing ever
Yeah,
from the beginning.
bro.
I got signed after my second song. Not everybody has
Nah.
those stories, and a lot more people have the like, I grinded it out. I really like I did not, it's not like this was just handed to me. It was worked
Right.
for and earned through working for it, which is
Right.
what the fuck you work for,
And then
like
like
it's
Yeah.
to earn things.
And as I understand the whole New York circuit, there's a whole bunch of locations. Like I have heard of this Freestyle Mondays thing before, and then
Yeah.
the dub is on Sunday, and then you would really have to go to each of these ones every single week and like put that
Yeah.
work in.
And
Right.
so you were let's pick
Yeah.
back up. You Baxter did that, and then you were saying um
Yeah. He put me on the Freestyle Mondays. That was one of the first things.
Mm.
And so I started doing that. Freestyle Mondays was important in my development as well, because similar to Nicholas of Brooklyn, at Nicholas, so Nicholas, I'm always cherish Nicholas because it was like my first place that I was going to on a regular basis, and I was winning these competitions. But then Nicholas is also like super black and Afrocentric, and that's kind of how I was raised by like my mother and whatnot. And so like it just felt good to be like in this super black space. and just kind of like getting this affirmation. And it's not like I don't want to paint it like I'm on some Dr. Umar Johnson shit, but like I don't know, it just felt comfortable for that to be like
There
kind
was
of one of my
nothing,
seedlings.
nothing you said felt super strong Hotep. You know what I mean? Like you
Okay,
good.
cool. And so then I move out, and not to say that other places are like less black or whatever, like I don't want to, but so I move on to like these spaces that are like more just like super hip hop rather than like super Afrocentric, like Freestyle Mondays. Um, I forgot who put me. I don't remember if it was Baxter, but I forgot who put me on a Legendary Cipher. But it was like everything in succession. I got put on the Freestyle Mondays, then I got put on to Legendary Ciphers, and then I got put on the end of the week, like all around like the same 3 month period. And it was just like, so this is 2014. So I told you summer 2013 is when we first go to Nicholas, and I first performed that Trayvon song, and they love it. And then so winter and spring 2014 is when it's Freestyle Mondays, the end of the week, Legendary Ciphers. And so I'm just getting thrown in all these different spaces. And not to toot my own horn, but like I'm like winning a lot. And before this time period, there wasn't really much. Like I had done little battles here and there, but it wasn't like any winning happening. And there's a different level of affirmation and confirmation from the universe that you get when you're winning things, right?
Mhm.
And so I'm doing all this rapping. I'm still writing songs, I'm still making songs, I'm posting stuff on SoundCloud, and I'm like failing at actually recording anything in the studio because I'm just like not as tied to that process. And the first time I even go to record, my homeboy's like, "You sound like Little Bow Wow," and I just didn't like my voice. And so it's
Shouts
whatever.
to Lil Bow Wow.
But
Shouts to
shout out to
shouts to
shout out to
Shad.
Shad. Shout out to Shad.
No, no
But
offense, no disrespect.
yeah, yeah,
EO
that's the
Dub wants
homie.
no
No,
smoke with
that's a
Shad.
legend. No offense, no offense, Bow Wow. I just wanted to sound
Word.
like myself, bro. No offense to
Yeah,
you. You're
yeah.
still a
Facts,
legend.
facts, facts. Right, right.
But so I'm going to all these events, and I'm just like kind of like in the scene. And I guess I could stop there, and I guess maybe
You
if you
were
guys want to know about a specific direction.
you were entrenched. You were entrenching yourself in what you were experiencing and the
Right.
communities that you were coming across. So if you were at
Yeah.
Freestyle Monday, you're entrenching yourself in that community.
Right.
And if you were going to EO Dub, then
So
or
so is
sounds like you were building towards that. You would entrench yourself in that community, and in
Yeah.
those things, you can, when you get entrenched in community live performance communities like that, like battle rap, right? Um, you can there's That's why a lot of battle rappers don't make music, right? Because you get super hyper focused on like
Right.
this and what I'm doing here, and I'm seeing success here. Why you know, risk anything when you're already seeing success at this one thing. But
Yeah. Fact.
you showed that, none of these things were good enough. Not that they weren't good enough, but like you weren't settling for any one thing and you were still reaching for more, sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, my love for hip hop I already loved hip hop. I loved listening to hip hop, and then when you can also be a part of the thing that you love, it just makes your love
Mm-hmm.
for it even more. And so hip hop was kind of just cascading me through this process. Um, and so I was just heavy in the scene 2014. And then actually one of the more important parts as well is I finally had my first opportunity to get a regular paid job rapping. And a brother named Daron Lev, his rap name is Ugly Brain. Me and him had battled at Freestyle Mondays. And it's another situation, where like, the battle circuit, it can get tense, but it's always dope when everything is left in the ring. And so Daron, me and him battle, he beats me. But after he wins the chip that night at Freestyle Mondays, he comes in, he's like, "Yo, my job is actually hiring rappers. We need you. Can I put you on?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And it's like this tour bus thing. It's like you're rapping for tourists, this tour bus. And I'm like, okay, sounds crazy. And I audition. I ended up getting it. and it's something called Experience the Ride, and I still work there. I've been there for the last 8 years, but it was my first time getting paid. I had a regular paid job that I was doing weekly to go rap for tourists in Midtown Manhattan, and so like that was a huge change because you know I get to make money in like these different ways, winning competitions, even though it's only a little bit, but then also as a job. And then that just makes rap even more a part of my life. Because I'm like, yo, like Deron, like I never forget Deron telling me at the time, he's like, yo, we're really lucky. It's 95% of people that do this rap shit don't make a dime off it. And I'm like, yo, in 2014, that was facts. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
that was a beautiful moment. So 2014 was just like a really big year for me as far as that went.
Word. So you
Yeah.
were. So you were. You continue. Let's keep on going on the journey. So
Okay.
2014.
Um, So boom, I guess we can move forward. I did EO dub for the first time that year. I didn't even place. Um, and I was like, all right, that's cool. And then we fast forward to 2015. Still doing freestyle Mondays a lot. And I think that's probably what I'm building most of my rep and my name off of. And then 2015 comes and I jump back into the EO dub circuit again. I win my preliminary round. And then we end up going to the final. And when we get to the finals is pretty dope. The prize was to go to Montreal to go battle that
hey.
year. It was me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember everybody that was in it. I think actually maybe I can't remember. It was me, Hired Gun. He goes by McCall now. KM,
Mm-hmm.
Ren Thomas, Cyanide, and
Renegade.
Falaz.
Mm-hmm.
Those are 6 of us. Competition comes down to the end. It's a tie between me and KM. We go into overtime, sudden death, and then KM wins. And I'm like, damn, all right, boom. So KM wins. He goes to battle in Montreal. Fast forward a whole nother year. Um, 2016 comes. I jump back into the EO dub circuit. Um, I make it to the finals. And then that year was to go to, I think the prize was Switzerland that year. And then Eli Black wins that year, right? And so after that, I was just like, all right, I'm not gonna do ELW anymore. Like it's just whatever. Um, and so I'm kind of just like doing my own thing. And then 2017 comes. 2017, there is a night. So I'm like, I'm not doing ELW anymore. But there was one of these competitions where, and this is something I always tell people to always support because there's definitely been a lot of times where I wasn't showing up to an event for myself. I was just going to like show love or to watch somebody else that I rock with, and then I got opportunities out of that. And this was probably one of the most significant moments of that. I go to the event to watch that night because a couple of the homies are going to be battling, are going to be competing, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a good one. Randomly, Falaz, he was sick that night, and Baxter, he asked me to jump in a competition to replace him. I wasn't gonna do it, but he was like, please, please do it, do it, do it. I was like, I bet. So I just jump in. I'm not thinking anything of it. I just jump in the competition. I'm rapping, doing my thing. I end up winning that night. And so I'm like, okay, I wasn't even gonna do this shit anymore, but I just randomly won tonight. Fast forward to summer 2017, it's the finals. And so I said I lost in 2014, I lost in 2015, I lost in 2016. Long story short, I'm like, if I'm gonna do this thing again, even though I had decided I'm not gonna do it, I have to make sure I'm doing something to separate myself from the rest of the competition because I'm not trying to just like take this L again. And so I end
No
up
more L's.
doing, no, I'm not trying to take this L again, bro. And so I remember making I made a song talking about the R. Kelly trial was like big at that time. And so I ended up making a song that was a kind of like a revenge gore song about R. Kelly getting kidnapped, and we'll keep it PG and say taking
Yeah, no, I
advantage
mean you said gore. You
taking
said
advantage of.
word.
Yeah,
Yeah,
taking
yeah. You
advantage
said
of.
gore. So like I already thought
Yeah,
all the
you
worst
already know.
things. happened
Yeah,
to R.
yeah, yeah.
Kelly. I'm like, oh,
And so I
word.
make this, and so I make this song for the competition, and then I make an acapella round where I'm making all of these bars that are specifically referencing Czech Republic, which was the prize that year. And then I ended up winning the competition by 2 points. And I cried on stage that night, man, because that was
You
it.
felt it.
I didn't expect to win, I guess you could say. And this was like this was the biggest prize I had gotten for anything having to do with rap, like an all expenses paid trip to Europe. I had never been to
Yeah,
Europe, and it was like really intense and emotional for me because I just felt like it was a lot that I had to do to get to that point.
it
And
was.
yeah, and so I ended up winning.
It was your
And
whole life
Yeah.
journey up until that moment. You know what I mean?
right,
Like that was,
right,
like those aren't things that should be, like, oh, just any old, little trip to any old, like, nah, bro. Like, especially for uh New Yorkers, like, I mean, not especially for New Yorkers, because the truth is that it happens everywhere. There are people in Japan, China, uh all over the world that they're born, they live, and they die on their block. And that
right,
is that. You know what I
right.
mean? Like, for
Mm.
a vast majority of humanity. You know what I'm
Yeah, that's
saying?
so
So,
true.
like, anytime that, like, you get to be one of the blessed ones to be able to be privileged enough to fly somewhere foreign and
Right.
experience something outside of your culture and what you know,
And
and be
just to,
blessed enough to come across other people like that,
but just
it's
to
a
like
super, like,
throw it
gem of
on
life.
is to like do it on your own merit is like
Mm-hmm.
that's a next because I got one time at work they sent me to Pakistan to train a sales team. I got
Mm,
that because of work. I earned that. Like
right.
that's different to me. Now being able to go and do a trip, it's a whole different flex that also is special to me. But like, I mean, I know basics, right? And I know that's who
Yeah.
you guys linked up out there. And he told me all about the
Yeah.
experience with this like passion on his face and the way he described going down there and just earning
Yeah.
it off of the talent of winning the competition and then going down there
Yeah.
and being with the elite people and making that crazy cipher. And I saw how big the stage was when
Yeah.
you performed and the radio stuff and all that. Like
It was
that's like a
crazy.
whole vibe you got on that.
Yeah.
That trip. And that's the beautiful thing about the EO dub. Like winning the competition is important to me. And that's a big thing. But like just being a part of that entire like if you never win, but you get to be a part of that entire experience every year, like that's beautiful. Like there's nothing that really and it's not me embellishing at all to say there's nothing that compares to that. Like I always, anytime I win, I get on stage and I talk about how dope EO Dub is, it's always rooted in like the reality of the fact that there's nobody else doing this. You know what I mean? Like there's a whole bunch of
Yeah.
people doing different things in rap. And so it's not like to say that there isn't any quality in being signed to a label, not to say that there isn't any quality and being part of like King of the Dot or Smack or whatever it is. But like EO Dub has this very unique experience, man, where it's like
Yeah.
you're getting
Absolutely.
you're traveling to this, you're traveling to a hip hop retreat on somebody else's dime,
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
and then you also get to compete in a competition. Like
Yo,
Mm-hmm.
that's
I got a real
who
You
who
question.
and,
who
and
even does
it's
who even does hip hop retreats? Like if you
Yeah,
even
no,
just take
it's
that
almost
piece,
like
you know what I mean?
the coveted spot of being the gamer that
Mm.
gets chosen to be flown out somewhere to game. You know what I
Right,
mean? Like,
right,
Mm.
it's
right.
just like it's that shit that everybody's like, "What?
So
Are you
Yeah,
serious? I get a free trip somewhere really cool to go do the thing that I love to do? What?"
right.
Like, super
With
wit
other cats from all over the
that's
world
what I wanted to
from
who
ask.
all over the
also love
world.
it.
So what's it like to compete
Yeah, Holden.
against people when you don't know what they're saying?
I mean, I'm so cerebral about this competition shit, bro. But competing against the world is a different challenge because I don't know. It's a whole lot of stuff to it. I think less about competition. It's just really fun to be in the mix
Mm.
with those guys and like talking to guys who love hip hop and they just never been to the US, or not even like their experience with hip hop was just very different from yours. And it's like it's a whole room of cats who are like that. You know, like as far as competing, because it's not a battle, you're not really competing with anybody else. You're competing with just is you. The way I look at the competition is you and the judges in the crowd. That's how I
Yeah.
always look at it. You feel
That's
me?
the
And
way
like
you should
obviously you
look at
have to,
any and all competition, because that's the best
yeah,
way to like flourish. Because your
right,
competition isn't necessarily always a person or people that are in competition with you, as much as
right,
it's you like defeating yourself so that you can be a better self, of version
right,
of yourself. You know what I mean?
right,
So like it rarely ever is competition actually you competing with other people. It's really just you competing with yourself so that you can
right.
be the best you and reach that like super saiyan level, and transform in front of people into a phoenix, and then like a lot of
Yeah.
metaphors in there.
No, yeah,
No,
no,
but they're
I
good
feel you. It
ones.
is what it is.
Um,
Yeah, but it's like, bro, like you in a cipher with cats that are just rapping different languages. Like I don't know what the hell you said, and it really helps me appreciate like music, like to bring it back to just music, like it's hip hop.
ooh,
And as hip hop heads, you know, we get real into it about lyrics and words. But at the end of the day, when you could sit there and listen to somebody rap and you don't know what the fuck they talking about, but you loving every minute of it, it's because it's music.
It's
You know
mm,
what
because
I
it's a
mean?
feeling. It's a feeling.
You know what I
It's a
mean?
feeling,
You,
and
it's just
I
like,
can I know exactly what you mean, because I have like in my iTunes, it's always been like whenever I have like my playlist, right, of like boom, this is what the fuck uh Danny is in the comments, and she said it's a vibe, and it
it's
absolutely
vibe,
is.
yeah.
Um, you
Literally
know, um
vibration. Yeah.
I have a bunch of music from like artists, Russian and
Yeah.
Japanese, Korean, that
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck they saying, but I tell you this, that shit lit.
That
Like
shit
it's
hit.
lit. You know what I mean?
Woo!
And
Yo, man.
when that shit starts knocking, I'm like, yes, this is
Man.
my shit right here. And so yeah, it is one of those things where like at the end of the day, like it doesn't matter sometimes what a person is saying, it's how they're saying it. And
Yeah.
what they're saying, how they're saying what they're saying is like a vibe, and it's a feeling, and it's a moment, and it's a thing, and you just feel it. You know what I'm saying? And that's
I'm gonna
what's
give you
beautiful about music.
I'm gonna give you two English speaking, two like American examples of that. You know, a lot of people hate on quote unquote mumble rap, but it's like, all right, even if you don't understand it, all like is a vibe that people are getting from it. And I think another example of that is Camp Low. Camp
Yeah.
Low, like you really need to sit there
What?
with Rosetta
That
Stone
they
a
were
little bit
all
and
vibe. They were all
you
vibe.
feel
They
me?
were all vibe. Come on, son. Yo, they had the best. To this day, I tell people, because I don't know what it is, but like names are very important to me. I love
Yeah,
like a cool ass fucking name. And I
yeah.
do believe in my heart of hearts that I don't think there's ever been two cooler names in all of hip hop other than fucking Sonny Chiba and Geechee Suede. Like
Yeah,
what,
get you
dog?
straight.
Geechee Suede, dog?
Right.
Like your name is
Word.
Geechee Suede, dog. You sound
That's
like
up
the
there.
smoothest. Like that is the smoothest, at the time, But yeah,
Right.
absolutely, it
That's
is
up that's
all
up
of
there with
it is all.
that's up there with Mr. Motherfucking Esquire. That's one of my favorite rap
oh,
names too.
Yeah,
that is a
yeah,
good
yeah,
name.
yeah, Mr. Muller. Yeah, it's a good name. Absolutely.
Shout out to that
Absolutely.
homie.
But yeah, it's one of those things. We're like, yo, uh, it's a vibe, and it's a feeling, and that's what that gives off. Go ahead, my fault.
Right.
So yeah, after I guess after that, what happens post the Europe trip?
Okay, so yeah, the first Europe trip. Okay, so we go out there.
Wait, he didn't even finish
I
saying if he won or not that trip.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
my
So
fair.
you know what's how much time do we have left? Because
We
I could
got
like the way I
you.
think
Go
I could be
ahead.
very detailed or I could be
You go ahead,
I bet.
Go ahead.
take your time.
Um, so like I told you, I'm real cerebral about this shit. And then by the time I had lost like four times, I'm like, I bet. Okay, so we just gonna be tactician. And so what was fun was preparing for my 2017 performance. So I'm going on YouTube. I'm looking up what's the hottest Czech Republic hip hop songs, and I'm listening to all the hottest Czech Republic hip hop songs. and I end up choosing one of their beats to rap over. You know what I mean? I'm looking
Mm.
up the songs, looking up translating the lyrics, find out what niggas is saying,
These is
so that
battle
I
rapper
could.
tactics, by the way.
You
Also,
feel me?
like
Listen,
these are things. It's called what it's called. Like in battle rap, sometimes super critical fans, right, which are like the purists, which are like the most annoying fans, right? But like, bless their hearts, they just really are passionate people, right?
yeah,
But like, they'll like criticize, oh, that's pandering to the crowd. And it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't know if you've ever been on stage, buddy, but like, that's what being on stage anywhere is. Pandering to
Exactly,
your motherfucking crowd. Like, you are
exactly.
playing to the people. I want the people in front of me to like what the fuck I'm doing. I'm here
Right,
to entertain these people. So
right,
whatever I need to do to entertain these people is gonna get done. And a smart thing to
right.
do, it behooves you, is to like if you're going out of country, study where you're going.
Mm.
And in battle rappers, they, if I'm in Houston, I might end up bringing up some bars that are relevant to chopped and screwed
As you
music,
should.
and as I should, and
Right.
wherever you go, and that's what you were doing.
I think sometimes rappers have this idea that you should be so cool that the entertainment part is only incidental. You know what I mean? But it's like, no, if you have a crowd, you entertain. You know what I mean? Like that's a part of it. And so, I'm looking up I forgot the name of the crew, but they had a song called it translates to verbal assassination. And I end up rapping over and so I'm sitting down being super tactician about it, and I'm like, all right, what beats do I want to rap over? I want to rap over something that's familiar, that's gonna be familiar to people worldwide, and also something that's gonna be familiar to people in Czech. So I end up choosing Lauren Hill's "Doo-Wop That Thing," and
Okay.
then I do the second half of my beat is the verbal assassination song by the Czech group. And then for my acapella round that that um that tournament, I ended up doing an acapella where I incorporated the names of all the guys in the competition, plus like the names of like the DJs and like the name of the spot, like just really tying everything together to
Mm-hmm.
like just trying to wow
Mm-hmm.
people. And then I ended up winning. I ended up coming in first place.
So
Ended up winning. It was beautiful. It was in front of a crowd of 1,000 people. Shout
who
out to
who
Meth.
was who else who was it that you beat out that year?
Okay, so Basics came in second place, Montreal. Third place was G Bag from UK. Who else was in the competition? Rox is from Switzerland. I can't remember where Rox is from. You had the brother MacGyver from Holland, from Amsterdam. Um, and obviously you had the brother from Czech Republic. His name is Jonas. And I can't remember everybody else that was in it, but and I hope it wasn't just one more person because if the person is listening, I
Nah,
feel bad that I
that
left them
sounds
out.
like, listen,
But
that sounds like some stiff competition, because I
oh yeah,
definitely I definitely when I'm traveled up to Montreal for the first time, I wasn't going
I'm
on
still
some
here.
EO dub business, no problem. On EO dub business or anything like that, right? Like, I'm going up there because I've got my own friends in Montreal that I'm
Hmm.
visiting for the first time. And when I'm
Yeah,
visiting these friends, they're like, they know that I do got, relation to EO dub. So they're like, yo, oh, you be at the dub. My homie Basics, won the MC challenge here, and like I think he won a challenge, or might have said second place in that challenge. You know what I mean? Um, and they were like talking about this dude that I didn't even know, at the time, Basics.
mm,
And
yeah,
so it's one of those things where, like, yo, it's not like you were up against, you were up against the champions of all these regions.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
They beat their guys out to end up
Exactly.
being there. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was tough, but I ended up winning. It was beautiful. Um, the love in the spot was crazy. Like I was saying, shout out to Anna and to Method J. They were like the leaders of the Czech leg of EO Dub, and they made the event really awesome. And I came back home. I You know, it was awesome. I was a world champion, man. I had a lot of love. A lot of people showing me love. That was beautiful. A lot of people were rooting for me, and I'm always gonna appreciate that. You know, um, came home. I ended up. What did I do next? I think the next big thing I did was Joyner Lucas had his I'm not racist song,
Mm.
and so if any, I don't know. I know I have Danny on Facebook. I don't know who else is on Facebook with me, but I'm always talking shit on Facebook.
Oh,
And
word.
so the I'm not racist song by Joyner Lucas that come out, and so we were having some Facebook discussion about the song, and you know, with me and the homies just talking like, nah, we're not really feeling like what Joyner did with that, and so like that same night, I'm in bed laying up, I find a beat, and I'm like, yo, I'm gonna write my own version to this. Like I didn't have any other intentions but to just write my own version. It wasn't for me to try to, one up him or anything. And so I'm in bed that night. I write my own version. I'm up
Yeah,
like
it was
maybe
a
a good two
frustrating
hours.
enough song to like anybody who understands anything
Right,
about what he was talking about to like be enough of a muse and inspiring enough to like
right,
want to be creative on your own and like
right,
correct the incorrect things that you heard being
right.
spoken about in that
You know
song.
the
Yeah,
timing. You know the
yeah.
timing, bro. And so I write. I'm up for like a couple of hours just writing, 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 writing. And everything is coming just really from like the heart. You feel me? And just conversations that I've had over the years. And when I'm done, I have like I don't know how many bars it is, but it's about like 7 minutes worth of bars. And I go to the studio that night and I record it. And after I record it, I put it on SoundCloud. People are saying, yo, this song is fire. I holla at my man, Lebanese Ether, to shoot the video. Holla at some homies. We end up shooting the video and then we put it out a couple of days later. And the video went crazy and went viral. And, it's my I'm Not Racist Joyner Lucas response, where I'm just kind of, just trying to give a response that I feel like is more appropriate. And that was my first music video. And like I said, it went viral. It has up to now, it had
Has
like
a
five hundred
hundred.
thousand views.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah, it
It's
had 500,000 views on Facebook, and on YouTube it has 159 or 57 or something like that, right?
it has 160 on YouTube and like crazy
160.
engagement, constant
That's
comments. Like I was like, whoa, and you just keep going, and it's really compelling. Like I was
Thank you,
engaged with
bro.
it. I listened to the whole thing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard it in the moment. It was good. Nah,
Thank you.
it definitely was one of those like I said, right? Like there's for anybody who knows anything, right? When I heard Joyner's song, I was like, the fuck you just said? What? Excuse me, sir?
Right.
Like
Talking about
the
fried
fuck you
chicken.
mean? The fuck?
Yeah.
So to see your response go viral like that, knowing that again, you know what I'm saying. I would hear from Jess, nothing but great things about you. You know what I'm saying.
That's fine. Shout out to
And
Jesse.
yeah, big shouts to Jess, the brow. And um, I heard nothing but good things. So to see you in that moment, right? Get that light was like, oh, this is dope. You know what I'm saying? Same thing as like we'll get to it, I'm sure, but like the Lupe and Royce and
Yeah,
Mickey
yeah, yeah.
and you Royal Rumble. These are moments that right when you know I personally, right, like anytime that I see anybody in battle rap winning in a different medium, I'm elated for them. You know what I mean? And like whatever I can do. There's a battle rapper that I know that like I wanted to bring to my league that like ended up becoming a magician. And he's like
Oh wow.
fucking super popular on YouTube, like millions of
That's
views
fire.
as a magician. And I'm just like, it's lit, yo. Battle
That's
rappers turned
fire.
into goddamn magicians, and we could do anything. You know what I'm saying? Like we
Word.
are, like we're
That
talented people.
creativity
So
don't
like, you
stop.
know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. So like, to see you having had corrected Joyner in on that joint was like, oh, that's dope. You did what like I think a lot of us were like somebody's got to fucking talk to this
Yeah.
guy, and you talked to him, and it was a good look. So that was what's up.
Good
And
look,
so next after that,
So yeah, that was dope. The Root ended up picking up. I got an interview by the Root. They did me and what's his brother's name who had a good response as well. It's not coming to me. The rapper from the Bronx.
My son.
It'll come to me in a second. Yeah, my song. Yeah. Um, so fast forward. So 2018, we back on the EOW circuit again. Wow, 2018 is probably my favorite year of EOW because I was really in rare form the whole time. I was really in my most focused competitive drive, and I was in my most creative space, man. Like I was doing stuff that I really appreciated. When I found out it was going to be in Paris, I tried to keep it true to the culture as much as possible. So, I'm from Flatbush, and like I told you, my family's Caribbean. And so I was like, you know what? Let me do something about the Haitian Revolution. And
Mm.
because Haiti they defeated France. So I'm like, if I'm gonna earn a trip to France, let me just do it the way that I'm gonna do it, repping the culture. And so I grew up in Flatbush, which is a very Haitian neighborhood, and I have a lot of Haitian friends. And so I watched a DVD about the Haitian Revolution. I did a lot of reading about it. Found an instrumental, and I wrote a song about it, and the song ended up becoming a performance. Um, and so I had a coworker. His name is Scott. Shout out to him. He's been in an Oscar-winning movie before. I asked him to play a French soldier on stage with me. I had a coworker because I teach as well. So my coworker, he's into swords and stuff, and so he had fake swords that were actually made of metal, and he let me borrow 'em. And I played one of the slaves who. So there's a lot of intricacies to the story that I'm not gonna get into, but I played a slave who was from Jamaica named Littyyy Bookman, who helped lead the Haitian Revolution. And so me and Scott were on stage. The choreography that I created was for us to have this sword fight. And then my homegirl, she came and she was supposed to, just as Scott was subduing me, I don't know if you guys watched it, but just as Scott was subduing me and was about to kill me, she comes and then she stabs him in the back. And then we start doing like the Haitian battle cry, coupe tête boule kai, which means cut their heads off and burn their houses down. And then I get into the rap. And so, I do all that. And then at the end, there's a Haitian song that comes on and we dance to the Haitian
let me
song.
tell you something. he said, and then I got into the rap. Yo, that is that's how you fucking win. You know what I mean? Like carrying that, like in battle rap, that's right. Like, yo, again, like you're here to entertain. I'm like, you're not
Right.
like this is what part of what we do is. It's not just any one thing. It is many things all balled up together. And if you can't which is what makes that, I can understand where Lupe would fall in love, same as anybody who's coming to EOW would fall in love when they see like, yo, oh my God, like you see the MC challenge, and you're just like, yo, these guys are doing everything. So like
Right.
you have to be able to do this, do that. You have to be able to freestyle. You have to be able to be able to work with a partner that you've never met before. You know what I mean? Which is to have synchronicity and chemistry like out of nowhere with people, which is just like, what? Like who requests that? Who asks for that, sir? Like that's not easy.
Yeah.
That's not like something that's just like and when you're there, it creates an environment, and it's literally the same thing as battle rap or anything in our culture that is when we're together somewhere, right?
Right.
It just the energy gets like whoa, palpable. You can
Right.
just taste it in the air, and everybody there feels it, and the energy is
Right.
being shared together by everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed.
So
Indeed.
yeah, for you to put in all that work and then rap, right? Like so you had choreography and there was a battle and then somebody got stabbed in the back and then
symbolic
rap.
battle
You know what I'm
cries
saying? symbolic model.
tying
You know what I'm
into the
saying? Like,
geolocation history of both the nations involved. Like, that's deep.
and then came the rapping
and then
part.
my homegirl Kaya, she was holding up the Haitian flag the whole time that I'm rapping too. So it's just like,
It sounds
it's
like
wavy.
I already know,
That's
like
fire.
if you're there in that moment, everybody's like, what? Like,
Yeah, it was
is the
crazy.
like I wouldn't be
And
surprised if
then at the end,
some
oh,
people
my
that
fault, what you
walked
said.
away from that show said, "This is the greatest show I've been to." There are nights like that they, and I remember hearing the story of that, and
oh wow,
you know what I'm saying? Like like it's one of those things where it's just like certain things become lore enough,
right.
and if you were there that night, that's a top 10 moment, in hip hop for people type shit. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
good luck, bro. And one thing I do want to make sure that I'm pointing out too, like if you listen to everything I'm saying, is always like somebody who's helping me with something.
That's
I think that's an
facts.
important piece. You feel me? Like it's not just me. Every step of the way, there's somebody who either pointed me in direction or helped me with something. And then even so, like the second round or the acapella round that night, I did a sign language rap, and it's my homie Depeche, who's a sign language dancer. I wrote a rap and he translated it into sign language for me. He taught me how to do it, and I ended up doing a sign language rap. You know what I mean? And then not to toot my own horn, but of course I won that night because it's like, all right, look at all the fucking shit I'm doing, right?
look at all the effort that you
but
put into it. I'm pretty sure not everybody
right,
else put in that level of effort into, like you, and
yeah,
this is something that people don't
it's how
understand.
things step up. It's how like
Yeah,
so
exactly.
the person who was like the precursor to that for me was Falaz. Falaz in 2017, he had brought his homegirl on stage to play his therapist, so he was rapping to. You feel me? And so
Word.
it's like,
Yep.
if I had never seen
Yeah,
Falaz do that, I would have never even
yeah,
thought I could bring
yeah,
actors on
yeah.
stage with me. So it's like you build upon what everybody is
Yes.
doing. So shout out to Falaz for that.
You
I was able to
understood
build
that.
upon that,
You
and the other
understood the
cats have been
assignment.
able to build upon that. Right,
That's a
exactly.
big tip.
You understood the assignment. This is the thing, is that you know what it is you only learn through losing, right?
Yeah, that's
Like,
a
because
fact.
winning, there's hardly any learning because you were
Because you think you got it.
victorious.
Right.
You
You
got
think
it.
everything
You
you
know
did
what I
was
mean?
right.
There's who's gonna correct the winner? Like,
Right.
you already won. Like, well, I should have done what differently because this is what got me a W. You know what I'm saying? But in
Yeah.
losses come an education of what not to do and what to do in order to get to a further step. And then once you win, right, you came back and you understood the assignment. You were like, yo, I now have to defend this motherfucking crown. Like, you were
Yeah.
coming back as a returning, and people don't understand like that's why like that number one spot is always, it's coveted by many people, but many people don't understand everything that, like that's why there are sayings like heavy is the crown that the king wears,
Right.
because it is not easy to be number one. Whenever you're number one, everybody's got you in their eyesights and in their
that's a
and
fact.
like everybody's plotting
Yeah.
on you and everybody's gunning for you now. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
that's a
saying?
fact. That's
So
a
like
fact.
you understood, yo, I'm now the champion and I'm coming back, and the stakes is Paris. So you telling me I can go to Paris?
Yeah.
Nah. I'm gonna put in a champion's effort, and you were recognized for a champion's effort.
Yeah. And then the Paris thing too, when I was in high school, in my second high school, there was a trip to Paris that I really wanted to go to because I loved French, but my family couldn't afford it. And so from that time, since I was 15, I had always wanted to go to Paris, And so when this opportunity presented itself, I was just like, okay, yeah, we going hard, you know. But yeah. And so fast forward, I ended up winning. We go to Paris. Paris was an amazing trip. Yo, we went to a party and they were playing tunes that I hadn't heard since I was going like basement parties in Flatbush when I was a kid. And that surprised the hell out of me. Paris had some dope culture. The crepes were fire. The KFC was fire. Hanging out with all the homies from all over the world was dope. That was the first time we hung out with the homies from China, C-Jam and Sweet, and those dudes were amazing. Matter of fact, that same night that we went to that party when they was playing the crazy tunes, we ended up, we went to that party We leave the party. I'm talking to security. I'm like, yo, bro, you know if there's any other parties going on around here? He was like, yeah, Onyx is performing next door. We're like, what? Onyx? So we swing right next door, and I'll never forget C-Jam and C-Jam and Sweet. They were like kids in a candy store when they saw Onyx right there in front of them. Like they were like just like blown away, which is a reminder too of like how much people outside of America really appreciate
Yeah,
90s hip hop to the
yeah.
core.
Oh man.
I
They
mean,
Oh
do
my
like
gosh.
they have a
it's
whole nother level of appreciation for it.
Whole other level.
it's essentially that 90s, like that's why it's hard to, and I just am not the type of person that's in the habit of compare. I don't compare myself to myself, and I should.
Yeah,
Right, but
yeah,
like I try not to like get too caught up in comparisons, and like there's never going to be anything to replicate that 90s era, because it just
yeah,
was a once in a lifetime thing, you know what I mean? And
yeah. Fact.
that was when it was making its way and like going across, the 80s, the 70s was it being born and it spreading across the city. And then the
Right.
80s was it crossing state lines and going into other states. And then the
Yeah.
90s was it crossing borders internationally and
Well
creeping
said.
into all these other
Mm.
countries, and it
Well said.
becoming like, what, every the music of a generation,
Well
um
said. Well said.
so there's never going to be anything to replicate that, and they're
Nah.
always gonna they are all the 90s rappers are super revered outside of
Hell yeah.
America. Like when they go to any country, they're all always like, I'm
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
god here. I'm like the Beatles. This is the
Yeah.
best. Like what? Like who doesn't
That's a
want that
fact.
feeling? Who doesn't want to
That's
be,
a
you
fact.
know, treated, and with high respect for and high regard
Right.
for the work that they put in, and it's
Hell
well
yeah.
earned. Like it's super dope that they are like that in all these countries when our people go there. You know what I mean? Like it's a good look.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Nah, it
But
is.
so yeah, Paris. Oh, my fault. Go ahead, Holden.
Nah, it is. Also, like Europe has this a different attitude to music where they tend to just appreciate all music rather than new music. Whereas in America, we kind of focus a lot on the new and the hot, and so we don't have that same appreciation
Yeah.
for older folk. Um, but yeah, no. So yeah, what
Yeah.
happens? I guess after the Paris trip.
Yeah. So Paris. Yeah, I ended up winning in Paris. The trip was a lot of fun. It was dope chilling with all those guys. 2019 comes. I wasn't sure if I was gonna do it again, but I ended up being. I don't know if Vice convinced me or what, but I ended up doing it again. And this time I was just like, this is gonna be my final performance. I'm like,
Wait, did
if
you
I do,
mention if you won in Paris?
yeah, yeah, I won in
Mm.
2018 in
You
Paris.
won
I
him.
won.
You two-time back to back,
Yeah, two
which was
time.
the
Yeah,
other thing
yeah,
that I had heard
yes,
about you before we ever met, was just like, yo, he back to back, and Jess is like
yeah,
talking about
yeah,
you like, yo, this kid's the future. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
and
Good looking.
and it's just, again, the lore is growing. You know what I'm saying? Like with
Yeah,
all
yeah,
these
yeah.
feats and all these acts. So
Good
you
looking.
won in Paris, and then
Yeah,
maybe Vice versus convinces you. Let's just put it there because that actually
yeah,
makes
yeah,
the lore even better, right?
yeah.
Vice
Where?
convinces you, right?
Yeah,
And you come back for the third year for the
yeah.
three-peat. Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Walk us
And
through.
so, and so, because this is my last year, because I'm like, I'm not gonna do it anymore after this. I'm just like, all right, I gotta raise the bar again because like, all right, so what am I gonna do to raise the bar again? And I basically landed on the idea that I was gonna. So in 2018, during the grab bag round, G bag from the UK, he had done his grab bag blindfolded, and I was like, oh yeah, that's dope. And I remembered in Takana in 2014 when I had done my research and watched some of the old videos, he had done it blindfolded, the grab bag as well. So I was like, all right, yeah, I could do that, but like, how can I expand on that? And so I came to the idea that I would do the whole competition blindfolded. That's basically, what I came to. I discussed it I discussed it with some folks and, tried to figure out the semantics of it, the mechanics of it, figure out how I would really do it. Um, and I was really battling with myself, like, is this going to be like super gimmicky? Like, if I do it, it has to make sense and it can't be just, okay, he's rapping with his eyes closed. What would be different if his eyes was open? And so I just decided to do research on like what it was like to be blind, listen to a few podcasts about what it, different experiences that blind people have, watch a few YouTube videos. And so,
YouTube
and this is
University.
when
Shouts to YouTube
YouTube
University.
University,
Yo,
man.
I love YouTube University. I swear
Yo,
by that
Yeah.
shit. Let me
it
tell you
changed
something.
my life.
You can learn. There's all these things that people criticize are really just tools, and people are really criticizing the people that they see and the things that they are searching out.
Hmm.
You're
Right.
not
Well
that
said.
you don't. Instagram doesn't have to be like I got homies that are like, oh man, Instagram is all ass, and I'm like, no, it's not, sir. My Instagram is not all ass because I don't go follow a bunch of chicks that are showing their
Yeah.
ass. You can't follow a bunch of the thing and then complain about the thing. That's just like, wait,
Right.
what? That doesn't make sense. This is clearly the
Right.
thing that you wanted in your feed, clogging up your feed. These are all tools. Your feed can be all real estate agents. Your feed can be
Hmm.
all health. Your feed can be all. It just depends on what you want to do. So like YouTube, like all these things is just like another tool, and like if used properly, like that shit is a fucking university, and you come out that bitch with a
Absolutely.
goddamn degree, a professional at things.
Facts.
Right. Fact.
And then YouTube is just structured in a way to make it more digestible and more on your in your control sphere, so you can learn on demand in a way that bypasses a lot of the institutions that want to gatekeep education and opportunity. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how many occupations
Facts.
honestly just require skill acquisition, which is where I think YouTube really focuses. So it teaches you how to get skills and knowledge relevant to your tasks so you can do your hustle.
Mm,
So it's shunned
well
because
said.
it's against the traditional university system, which is one hell of a cash cow for a lot of people.
Talk about it. Preach, Holden.
Facts.
It's just what it
Facts.
is. I'm into the I dropped out of university and did quite well. So I'm not to say university doesn't have a purpose, but I was in psychology, and I don't know if you like ever looked at the economics of psychology, but unless you go into teaching after, like you're basically gonna go into marketing or therapy or make no money. Like there's not
Yeah.
a lot of choices in that field, so it's like I really thought a lot about it, and then said, fuck it, I'll learn about marketing. And then the internet came and fucked up all of traditional marketing. So traditional marketing
Hmm.
makes no sense in the internet era, and there's no real courses anymore. It's just people who know how to make money online get hired, and that's how it works now. It's really weird to watch
Yeah.
this transition play out. So YouTube University fucking real. Like there's something to it, and there's a lot of other places online
Hmm.
that you can go after YouTube that just expand for no money.
Expand more. Yeah.
And that's the
Yeah.
crazy part.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
It's all free. Well, I
But
mean,
it's a great fucking beginner's guide to everything. You
everything.
know what I mean? Like that's it might YouTube might fuck around and be, and we can end it here and keep on with the story, right? But it might end up it might really be the fucking handbook to the you know
You know what?
guide to the
You know
galaxy
what it
type
is? It's
shit.
the Rosetta Stone to everything.
Hitchhiker's guide to the galaxy. You know what I
YouTube will
mean?
Well,
teach. It teaches you the jargon you need to learn whatever field it is. Because YouTube's gonna have motherfuckers who break down all the basic language for you, and that's always the problem is jargon.
Yeah.
yeah. YouTube. I think what you're talking about and what makes YouTube special and is just a reminder that everything is not always doom and gloom. Sometimes we have this perspective
Mm.
that like the world is all fucked up and people are just always trying to take advantage of people or manipulate. But the reason all that information exists is because there are people who want to teach people how to do things and want to inform people, right? And so it's just like
Yep.
the beauty of that, like the
We
sharing
all
of
want to. Yeah, I
knowledge.
was gonna say we all want to share our journeys with each other.
Right,
We
right,
all want our stories to be heard, so that we can all benefit each other, and that really
right,
is what the tapestry of humanity should be encompassed
right.
by.
I think we innately understand how a community thrives. And so we just, those of us who want to share, like, okay, this is gonna help somebody, and so this is gonna help the world in some way. So let me tell it to people. You know.
Yeah.
All right.
I
So
was watching. Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
you know, I wanted to keep going. So you went to YouTube
Yeah.
University
So
to learn what it felt to
learning
be
about
blind.
blind. Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also Nipsey had just passed.
Mm.
I think the
Rest in
previous
peace.
year he passed 2019. Um, and but we were actually at EO Dub when we found out that he passed. And I guess at some point I just decided I was going to do a tribute to him. And so what I did was I decided I was going to be blindfolded every round, and I was going to tie blindness into everything that I was doing. And so for my first round, I bought the outfit that Nipsey had the day that he died, down to the
Mm-hmm.
socks and the sneakers with blue laces because he has a song called Blue Laces.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm. I know. I'm
and
very familiar. I love Nipsey.
yeah, yeah. And so I did a rap about Nipsey's life, and in the verse I referenced every track on Victory Lap. And what I was doing in the story was I was talking about his journey as a young man moving through the streets and how he was able to defeat all of these things that were coming his way because he was special. And I used the Crip flag as the blindfold. And so I was like, yo, even though he was blinded, not in a condescending way, but you kind of get what I'm saying. Like, even though he was
Mm-hmm.
blinded by the streets, he was still able to like fend off all of these enemies. Now, the enemies that I used were the seven deadly sins. Um, and then the other piece of it was, so I'm part of a crew, part of a dance crew. I rap, they dance, we do shows together. And what I learned about in the dance world is they have this thing called Seven is Smoke, where one dancer battles seven dancers until there's a winner. And so I took the seven deadly sins, and I got two dancer friends to take part in it. And they wore shirts that had the seven deadly sins on each shirt. And shout out to my students because my students actually made the shirt. Um, and so I played Nipsey Hussle with a toy gun, and every time one of the dancers would dance towards me, I would kill them with the gun while I was blindfolded, and I would kill a sin. And then they would go and change their shirt, and I would go. The other dancer would dance at me, and then I would kill them. I would shoot them all while I'm blindfolded. And then by the end of it, after I had killed off six of the sins, I finally take my blindfold off, and I'm like, I can see now because I'm Nipsey Hussle as he's successful and an adult. And then I get killed by Envy. And Envy was represented by my homie, it was like part of like this whole act. And so that's basically what I did. That's how I incorporated blindness in that one.
That's like
And then
just listening to you explain that performance is almost as hot as
Mm-hmm.
probably the performance was. Because, like, I mean, I want to go see it now. Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was dope. It was a lot of fun to do, honestly.
That's one
And like
round.
I said, yeah, that was one round. Yeah, and what was crazy? Back to the universe. When I went to Foot Locker the day before to buy the sneakers that Nipsey had on that day, when I walked
Mm-hmm.
out of the Foot Locker, there was a woman like 10 feet away from me up the block. As I walked towards her, I realized she has a Nipsey Hussle tattoo on her back, and it says "Hustle and Motivate." I'm like, yo, what are the
Mm-hmm.
chances, bro? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm doing the right
Nah.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was what I always really that like I fuck with Nipsey early,
yeah,
from the jump sample because just off rip, that was the first time I'm hearing him. It was his first big record, and
yeah.
it had the crisscross jump sample. It was just
I don't even
hard,
remember
you know
that
what I
one.
mean? And I was just like, yo, this is lit. But and then like as I tuned into him and I like was like tuned into like his journey, like every time he was dropping, he was doing something really dope and motivational, inspirational. And then he got to that
Yeah,
$100 mixtape that I think it was 100 or 1,000. I can't remember what the price
it
was.
was a hundred,
And Jay
hundred
Jay
dollars.
bought like 10 of them or some shit like that.
Yeah,
Um and like just Nipsey's just always been, and I've always been an appreciator of, because I look at Jay as the ultimate inspiration because Jay, like that is the way that he's always tried to, right? Like Hov did that, so hopefully you wouldn't have to go
Yeah,
through that.
go through
Like I'm
that.
just telling my
Yeah.
life story, so you can learn from my life story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
Nipsey was like the most in that vein, out of the next generation. So like, I could see where like somebody in the city would have a Nipsey hustle. Well, we were New York was big fans of Nipsey. Like Nipsey did well in New
Yeah.
York. Like we were
Yeah.
a big market for him and shit.
Yeah. I fucked with Nipsey since that Marathon mixtape, 2010. Um, but yeah. So okay, so boom, because I do need to pull it back a little bit because I know this is the important part. Um, the whole time that I'm prepping for the show, I didn't know Lupe was going to be judging. I didn't know he was going to be there. But he gets announced as a judge like the day before. And so, that whole first round and everything, I do that in front of him. But I'm blindfolded, so I don't know how people are receiving it. I do my second round. My second round, I did like some alphabetical slaughter shit. And then my third round, which was kind of like the round that kind of I think cemented it for Lupe and just kind of everybody in the room. What's actually funny is after the second round, I thought I was losing because I remember I got off stage and it was some dude in the front who was drunk. He was like, "Yo, that shit was trash," and I was like, "Damn."
New York, yo, I fucking love. Yo, no offense to you, right, bro? But like,
Nah, it's all
I love
good.
that about New York City. Like, that's what. Like, I love the fact that this is what we like. All of us that go through the circuit of New York City and like trying to be like, yo, I rap. Like we get nothing but like, get the fuck out of here. That
Right.
fucking trash, bro. You're not
I'm
fucking who
glad.
the fuck you think you are? You're not Biggie, you're not fucking bigger. You're not whoever is the local hero, you know what I'm saying? Like you're not
Yeah,
whatever,
and I
and that
appreciate
I
him.
think is the old yeah, no, that's the ultimate motivator. Without that,
Exactly.
there is no, fuel in the gas tank to be like,
Right.
yo, nah, I'm gonna prove you fucking wrong. You're gonna
Right.
fucking,
Right.
you're gonna fucking, you're gonna regret that. It's the same thing for
Right.
like ball players, right? Like the people that are booing them in the crowd. It's like, word, son,
Yeah.
it's
Fact.
all good.
Fact.
That's why you booing, because I'm fucking your
Yeah.
team up. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's motivational. All of us, we
Where
all need motivation, and in contests, that's the ultimate motivation.
hell yeah.
He
Getting
says
humbled,
trash.
a little bit is good. Is good for my competitive spirit. And so that was after my acapella round. Third round comes, it's the freestyle grab bag. And I'm doing this blindfold. I grab a bag, head out on stage, and I do my thing. And I have a moment. Shout out to Scram Jones. Because a DJ who quickly picks up your rhythm and pace and knows when to drop the beat out on your punchlines is golden. And that helped me so much. To Scram quickly realize,
Look who you're talking about. Grammy
yeah,
Award
exactly.
winning Scram
Also,
Jones.
me and Scram got the same birthday, November 5th. And so like he quickly picked up on my punchline pattern and he was dropping out the beats every time I hit a punchline, and that was just giving it more energy. And the crowd was, I'm blindfolded freestyling. The crowd is eating this shit up, right? And then I come to a point where I just say, I think this is the moment where I won the night. And I was just like, I'm rapping, and I said, I can't see what's happening, but I hope Lupe's smiling, da 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 da. And I said, Walt Disney was born in 19 something something. You know what that is? The beat drops. That's a Mickey fact, and Mickey Facts was judging, and the whole place went crazy. But it was awesome. I'm blindfolded, so I don't really know how crazy people are really
Yeah.
going.
Nah,
Lupe's
come on,
going
that's
wild.
awesome.
I didn't even. Lupe and Mickey are
Yeah, no,
going
everybody,
crazy. I didn't even know
everybody
about it
had to have
until
told you. Everybody told you. That's
yeah,
how.
yeah,
That's how you know that they went crazy because many
yeah,
people told you like, "Yo, Lupe and Mickey was wilding."
yeah. Facts. And I see all the videos afterwards. But anyway, so I do that. We ended up doing the whole competition. Everything is done. I ended up being named the winner. I actually didn't think I was going to win until Homeboy Sandman came out later. He was like, "Yo, bro, you know you won that shit." I was like, "For real?" Okay, boom. And so I ended up winning. Lupe was showing wild love. He sent me a DM that night. He was like, "Yo, man, that was crazy. That was a master class." Da, 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 da. And that was, that was pretty much that, as far as like the Lupe connection for that inception of it, you know. And it was a great moment, EO Dub just being what EO Dub is and giving Lupe a reason to even be there in the first place. Lupe wasn't there for me. He was there for EO Dub. You know what I mean? Because EO Dub is EO Dub. And then it's like I just happen to be on point at a moment where my favorite rapper of all time happens to see me. And that's one of the most special parts about it for me too. Lupe is my favorite rapper. And in a lot of ways, what I create is a little influenced by him too. You know what I mean? I have a lot of influences and I am also my own artist, but he definitely is an influence. Or we at least like relate in some way, like in how we look at things, which is why I was a fan of him in the first place. And so I think that was just one of those moments where it's just like shit. It was serendipitous as fuck.
I
Yeah.
can empathize. I can empathize, and I appreciate it. Like Lupe is Lupe. My first solo album, I like kind of in my head as an artist was patterning it after the Cool, in the essence of
Mm,
like this is gonna be overarching story that I'm telling across a few tracks, but not every track. But it's everything is related to the story that I'm telling. Um,
fire. What's the name of your
and
first album?
and uh, Dutch Vega presents the Adventures of Super Spick. Um,
Mm,
and it was this character that I created of me being fucking Super Spick. Like Dutch
okay.
Vega's Clark Kent and Super Spick is Superman. You know what I mean? Except
Okay.
he's fucking Super Spick that
Okay.
does
Yeah.
super spick type things. Um,
Okay.
uh, it's crazy. I ended up having like a track called Super Ghetto Friends, and it was featuring Sarah, Hannah, Jets
Oh, word.
James, Figueroa, Jay Buddhas, and we were the Super Ghetto Friends. Sarah was Wonder Dyke. Jess was the Brow. Um, and
Y'all are
and
hilarious,
um,
B.
and Buddhas was Captain Kush, and it was featuring Just Days, who anybody who knows Just Days is very bow-legged, and he was Legs Luthor. So
Wow.
we like did battle on a track, and it was fucking fantastic. But this is right, like this is all I wouldn't have right. Like it's the same thing that you talked about with you saw somebody going the extra length the year that you lost, and that's why you learned from them. I got to go the extra length.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
saw Lupe put out. I heard Lupe put out the Cool, and I'm just like, this is a different way of approaching a concept album. Like instead of it being like almost like a play, which kind of like what a lot of concept albums tended to be, right? Like it was
Yeah.
more like focused on the music, but the music was still kind of curated to be relative and related towards the overarching topics of the concept album. But Lupe is a
Yeah.
great
Album.
MC, and so like to be like complimented by an MC like of Lupe's caliber, like that's like,
Yeah.
bruh.
I was like, I can retire now, man.
You can't, by the way. That's not the way it
No, I
works.
don't think so.
It's not in the contract. I didn't read the fine print on the contract, my bad.
Super not in the contract. Not allowed.
No, it's dope
All
though.
right, so
But just to like
so
get
you
his.
Mickey and Lupe are in the crowd. They judge you
Yeah.
winner of the
Yeah. So yeah, the
competition.
judges were Mickey, Lupe, Poison Pen, and Mozzie. And yeah, they voted me as the winner.
Poison
Yeah.
Pen is, you know what I'm saying? Like I've stood. That's my brother, and I've stood there. We've stood there for tons of battles together. He stood there by himself without me before I ever even existed for a
Mm,
tons of battles.
Champion.
three-time U.S. champion. Yeah.
U.S. champion,
U.S. champion. So
and
he
then you
wants
go
Yeah.
to
the world again.
Say that one more time.
So then the world champion comes again?
Yeah, the World Championship in Belgium. Long story short, I ended up coming in second place. I lost by, I said a half point. It was close, but yeah. So I went to Belgium, but Belgium was a great time too. We had a good time in Belgium.
These
Food
these
was
are
good, music was
fantastic
good.
places. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
what?
Brussels,
Like
Brussels was awesome. Brussels is actually it's such a modern or like American looking city. Like if you didn't listen to what anybody was saying and you didn't hear that they weren't speaking English, you could just think that you were in an American city. I mean, obviously you have very European, like there's certain European architecture that you can't mistake, but like in certain places, just kind of look like you were like in another American metropolitan area. Honestly, yeah,
yeah,
I suppose a lot of like when I see a lot of footage from a lot of modern cities, it kind of ends up looking like that a lot, and it's like it's a cool thing.
yeah.
But I think what Flacco is saying is true. The experiences you've had just traveling to all these places and rapping in other
There's
countries.
nothing that like what that is the right. Like I think
bro.
speaking for every body who's ever rapped ever, right? Like our goals are definitely to like go places just to rap
Yep.
and
Yeah,
be good at rapping and shit. Like that's always like a
yeah,
what?
It's like
I'll take that. I'll absolutely
to
take
like
that.
go to Europe
I'll go
too,
somewhere
and not even
distant
just
and rap.
rap
right,
to
Like
Belgium. Like these aren't just the regular countries. Like people like okay, going Paris.
right.
Paris is like more of a regular country. Belgium is like okay.
yeah,
Yeah, right. And Brussels is like equidistant to London, Paris, Amsterdam, and so like they have all this culture that moves through it, and
Mm.
so it's like a
yeah.
rich country.
They
Yeah.
have the Euro tripping culture out there that like is
Mm-hmm.
all just trains. You take a train from one country into the next.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yeah, that's right.
Did you get to do that once you were done
No,
with the
no.
okay,
I know
okay.
Basics did that. He ended up going to Amsterdam after we left, but nah, my trip was just pretty much going and come back. Yeah.
Work. I mean that's an fucking great experience, I'm sure,
Yeah.
on its
Yeah, it
own.
was awesome. It was awesome. we had um we had a party one night in the street and it was so real that the cops came and we thought they were going to shut us down. They were like, nah, you good, just turn down the music like a little bit, and they just left and we just kept partying in the street and we were valid, like, it was just like the universe was
That's
rocking
lit.
with
That's
us.
lit. Yeah.
God.
So what happens after you get back from Belgium?
Shit, the pandemic hit. Yeah,
I was
come back
about
from
to say,
Belgium, and everything is pretty much just cool run-ins. And then, January comes, Kobe passes, Pop Smoke passes, pandemic starts, the world is upside down. Shortly after that, unfortunately, Vice passes away. And we're in the thick of the pandemic. And I think I think the whole 2020, everything was just really stagnant, just really just kind of in a weird space. Um, I was doing things online. Like I had this thing called the 6 foot bar challenge where I was having people rap and I was giving them like the winner would get prize, like there would be a prize money and the winner would either get they got either choose to take part of the prize money and then give part of it to a charity or give all of it to a charity. And so I was doing that for a little while, as far as rap stuff. But it was pretty much, kind of stagnant. Like I said, I'm a teacher. So I was just teaching on Zoom. I teach rap and poetry. So I was just teaching poetry on Zoom with the kids for the whole year, you know. Um, and then I guess we could fast forward because, you foreshadowed it a couple of times. Um, but we could fast forward to 2021. I don't think anything significant happened in my rap life after that. But oh, Clubhouse. So I get on Clubhouse and Lupe is like on Clubhouse, like telling people, like I'm dope and shit like that, which is fire. And then at some point he does an interview with Royce the 5'9's brother, actually. His name's Kid Vicious. And he tells him that like I'm top 3 in the world. And like, oh, that's crazy. Like that shit is fire. So I think that kind of had a little bit of a pretext for the conversation that happened with Royce and Lupe, 7, 8 months later. So that was fall of 2020. Fast forward to summer of 2021, Lupe, Royce, and all these cats are having some conversation about who's the best rapper in the world or whatever. I wasn't really following it because I was
Yeah,
having, I had just, oh yeah,
Lupe initiates the whole conversation. It was covered on all the like media outlets that Lupe went on Twitter and started proclaiming who were the greatest pens in all of rap.
Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
they having that convo, and I'm chilling. I'm with my students. I'm about to be working in person for the first time. I was an assistant site director at my job, so I'm like really focused. But I start hearing this stuff. I'm still paying attention, and at some point, Lupe is having a convo with Royce about me. He's telling Royce that you know I'm the best in the world, and EO Dub is where you got to go to be the best or whatever.
To be the
And then
best. Yep.
Royce is being condescending, which is totally fine in the realm of rap. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Totally
I'm just sitting
par
there
for the
enjoying.
course.
Yeah, it's par for the course. So I'm enjoying this shit. Like, yo, this is crazy. Like, this nigga Lupe is here talking to Royce about me, and Royce is throwing shots. And I'm sitting there like, okay, cool. And then somebody sends me another video of Royce throwing shots again. And I'm like, you know what? All right, bro. You know what? Niggas is talking hot. Let me step in the ring a little bit. And so, I end up putting out Royce the 6 Feet Deep. It was really supposed to be what I felt like it was what I felt like it sounded like, which was just like a first volley,
Mm-hmm.
in anticipation of anything that might be coming back. So if I gotta
Mm-hmm.
go even crazier after, I would. But
Mm-hmm.
Royce is talking hot, and in the world of rap, like you said, par for the course. For rap is talking hot, we don't converse with you back. We don't call up
Yeah.
Denzel to host a debate. We don't
No.
sword fight. We don't
No.
mud wrestle. We don't
No.
thumb war. We
You
don't
rap.
text. We don't Angry Birds. We rap.
Nope.
You feel
You
me?
rap. Mm-hmm.
And so, I threw the 6 feet deep, and it was fun. It was fun. I wrote it. I had sent it to James. James was like, "Yo, can we release it on the EO Dub page?" I was like, "Sure." And that was that first step in that whole process for me.
That's incredible. Um,
Yeah.
it's a good song. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so, like, what?
Um.
How does that like
Where? What was
like
the?
the
What was
impact? Like, so you dropped the
the?
song and like,
How was the from your perspective from there? How did everything
Well, the
feel
homies, the
while
homies loved
unfolding?
it. The homies loved it. I'll say that. Um, and I was really hyped to get the homies hype. It's like, all right, boom, like Son is going at it with Royce the 5'9", like that's just crazy.
Yeah.
Also Royce is pretty revered. And
Yeah.
so
Absolutely.
I guess to a certain extent, it's kind of like jarring for people to be like, yo, Son is going at Royce? Like, hold on, like that's Royce. You feel me? And so, oh yeah, so actually I had dropped the snippet of it. And then after I posted the snippet, Lupe reposted. He shared the snippet that I dropped on his Instagram page. And I hadn't even finished writing it at that point. And so after he did that, I was like, okay, so yeah, I'm definitely gonna finish writing this shit. And so I drop it. People are loving it. The homies is loving it. EO Dub drops it, and it's like a mixture. It's like there's a lot of people saying that it's trash, and there's a lot of people saying that it's fire. I mean, I'm a realist. I can understand why people who said it's trash within the context of what people believe about Royce versus what people believe about Lupe. And if Lupe is saying this person is the greatest rapper versus the content that was there, and me knowing that that wasn't me putting in my full effort because it was a first volley in a rap, and any battle rapper knows if you're gonna go first, don't put your most fire shit first because then you're allowing cats to respond. So within the context of all of that, I was actually happy with the response for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was cool. And then, it turns into, I guess it turns into Royce. He felt some type of way about it, and he was talking about it in his stories. He thought he was disrespectful, um, and it was kind of by that time the ball was kind of rolling. So for me, it was like, okay, he's talking about it. All right, well, I'm gonna keep rapping. If you're gonna say something, I'm gonna just rap. And so I was, I ended up doing another response, rapping rapping in response to stuff that he was saying in his stories that I had posted on my Instagram. And that came cool. And then at some point, there was a day where Lupe, I forgot who dropped first. Oh yeah, Royce did the diss to Lupe, and then Lupe did the diss back to Royce, where he name drops me. And he's like, "Yo, I'm still waiting for you to respond to Osyris." And I'm like, "All right, this all of this energy is going on. Like this shit is crazy. Niggas is dropping these long ass
that was
songs."
when it was getting like it was on every media outlet
Yeah, complex, all of that.
everywhere.
And then at that point, I just dropped and everything I was dropping was on Instagram and on my SoundCloud. Because that's the medium that seemed like everything was happening at. And so I ended up that day that they dropped those two songs, I came home from work. And it was such a crazy time. There was so much going on in my life at that time. But I came home from work that day and I found a beat and I just wrote. And I wrote the song. I don't know if y'all heard it called the Eliud. It's like an 8-minute song that I did where, I threw some disses at Royce on it. But it was me kind of just meeting guys where they was at with it. Like, okay, yeah, I could rap. I could rap too. And so we're gonna do this. And so, I did it, shared it. People were loving it. At least in my circle, people were loving it, and it was just, I think all in all, that was kind of like towards the end of that entire experience. Royce never threw any like formal disses back at me. His brother, Kid Vicious, we had gotten into a little back and forth on the internet, on Instagram. But I had already had like not a relationship with him from before, but we had already been involved in something on Clubhouse before. So we already had a little bit of a whatever you want to say. So whenever we were having that little drama, and he was like, "Yo, we don't." He was kind of on some time where he was like, "This could go past rap." And I'm like, "All right, what type of time are you on?" I'm on some rap time in it. So we ended up getting on the phone and we ended up squashing it. And so that was that. But I think all in all, that whole experience was just a lot of fun because I just did some fun writing. I went at it
was
with
super
Royce.
viral. Super viral.
I went at it with Royce. You know what I mean? Lupe is showing me love.
Yeah.
And it was just a good space. It was just a good space, and I feel like it's all healthy hip hop stuff. I think it's super healthy hip hop stuff. That's how I felt about it.
I really enjoyed spectating that in real time when it was happening.
Okay.
Yeah, that was I saw that like that mixed that moment mixed with Griselda's rise has been kind of like earmarking like this like kind of like movement like I don't want to say back to like lyricism but like kind of like making room for lyricism to be on the same plateaus that we're upholding everything else to. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
Right.
in that conversation that's being had, what Lupe is trying to ensure is that like the everyday man or the everyday MC places don't get overlooked. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I
Right.
think that he also might have saw that like battle rap was kind of like people's go-to, right? Like your knee-jerk, like, oh, you want me? I'm gonna show you how cool I am. And when you ask me who my favorite lyricist is, I'm gonna name some, battle rapper to show you how underground and, informed I am or whatnot. And like I think that Lupe is like, yo, it goes deeper than even that, like y'all are even scratching the surface with just that. There's a whole nother world going on out here. And end of the week, it like deserves to be on par with those pedestals that you're upholding for people. And that's a
Yeah.
great look, yo. That's a great look for him to, be lavishing all that praise on you and the dub.
And the dub, yeah, facts. Yeah, he's a good dude for that, for real.
was
Great dude.
it was cool
Yeah,
to see
absolutely.
that. um, Also, it's cool how it happened, right? Because you didn't just like get it like random. He saw you on YouTube. Nah, you were like the blindfolded guy with the Nipsey whole presentation. Like you did the
Mm-hmm.
work to earn it, as has
Yeah,
been the case and the consistent theme, along with friends helping you in that moment too. So it's bigger than just you. It's like a whole thing, and so it's like everything kind of rewarded you for it, for following that journey and just being involved with it.
yeah.
So what like follows up the Royce era, the Royce situation?
Jeez. Um, I mean, you know, I just kind of like, how can I describe it? I kind of just do what feels right or what feels good
Mm,
with this rap shit all of the time. I realize, there's so much to say in a journey. Like I didn't talk about the fact that I had dropped a project in 2018, which is my first project. But like
What was the
I'm
name of it?
always just
that's the
making music. It was called.
the
I'm sorry.
purple
What were you
the
saying, Holden?
purple one.
Yeah, the Purple Color Theory.
Yeah.
And that project was a whole story. Like it ended up becoming like this very women centric project. It wasn't supposed to be, but I'm glad that it ended up turning out that way, just because of how everything happened that year and how that project ended up being developed. But in general, like I kind of just do what feels good in the moment, and I just been
Hell
doing.
yeah.
I just been kind of just doing me in a way. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've been on Instagram doing like my whole, my freestyles. I mean my verses with the dictionary every day or every other day. Um, and then also just my personal life. I've been going through a lot as well, and so my personal life has also been taking a lot of precedent. But since the Royce thing, I've just been kind of just doing what's fun and what feels good. Nothing specific, nothing nailed down. But I'm always writing. I'm always writing. I'm always rapping. And like I said, I'm part of a crew. It's a dance-led live show, and I have a residency that I do with them at 92nd Street Y in Manhattan once a month. And so, I do that on a regular basis. So I'm always performing with them. But I call myself a bohemian rapper sometimes. I just kind of just go with the energy. You know.
That's really dope. And
Oh
you
yeah, I
won the
won the Diesel
Diesel
Challenge.
Challenge.
It's so many things. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Forgot.
The Diesel
Won the
Challenge
Diesel
was fun.
challenge. And that was the
Yeah.
that was
Oh
you
yeah.
won the whole thing. And what was the prize for that?
The prize was I think Mickey D's. Um,
Mm,
but
super good prize.
no, no, it was 5 G's for that. But
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, one
Mm-hmm.
thing I was
That's
proud of with that one was the 88 bars, the verse that I wrote, because that was something that I was working on from before, owed to Jay-Z, to his
mm-hmm.
22 twos, 44 fours, and I was really glad that I was able to write that and put that down. EO Dub always gives me opportunities to be in my most creative,
Mm.
and so when I think back to all of my most creative times, most of them were with EO Dub, and so yeah, I really appreciate that.
That's awesome.
Yo, that was quite a fucking journey. You know what I mean? Like
Thank you. I'm glad
that
you guys
that
are listening to the
that's
whole shit.
that
That's
Nah, man.
what?
It's really
Nah,
valid.
what?
Every
I
word, bro.
thank you,
I
Like,
thank you, bro.
love
That means a
this.
lot.
I love this journey of like uh for me, like, it was mostly getting to know my friends better, right?
mm,
Like, because I'm inviting Poison Pen and Mickey actually also is one of our guests, and like these
Yeah,
are my friends, and like, but like I also realized like in the middle of doing this, like, yo, we're such superficial friends, especially like in like the battle rap circle. It's just always like a lot of like battle rap talk and like fucking
yeah, yeah,
everyday regular whatever talk. You know what I'm saying? It's never like, what your mom was fucking playing or what your dad was fucking playing, growing up and
yeah.
shit. And like getting to know that is like super just
yo,
dope.
it's
You know what I'm
honestly
saying? Like
it's just
I don't really
it's
even have a
interesting Cause like there's so many little commonalities. Like how all y'all in New York know all these singy songs I never heard of. Like to me, that's super interesting. Or then there's all the parts where like the age thing. When you start talking about Power Rangers, though, I'm like, okay, now we talking my language. And it's just wild
Yeah,
how
yeah,
like the ebbs and flows of time just correlate with people's journeys, and how honestly you can ask a question about people's childhoods and music, and almost nobody will ever answer that question the same. It's just
right.
it's
Yeah,
just cool. And then, but your journey's like mad, like bohemian. That's a really good way to put it, actually, because like it's
word.
super standout compared to a lot of other people's who like really pursued it heavy, and you just kind
Yeah,
of were like, I'm gonna make the music when the time comes, and then the dub came, and then I won the dub by
Damn,
accident, and then I decided to
there's
try
some,
harder.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Basically,
So like it's a really fun story,
basically,
and like for me, it's just like
yeah,
it's like anybody can really do it, because like there are so many people who can do it in so many different ways.
Hmm.
yeah. And then like there's so many other details to like these stories of like things that were going on in my life, or other sides of stories where somebody had to convince me of something, or I had to have this interaction with a person that like totally changed. Like there's so many other little things, you know. And so I'm just like kind of a cog in this musical system in a lot of ways, you know.
I think most of
Or
us.
just like within the rhythm of just the rhythm of the universe, and music is just like the thing that we're talking about right now. But it's just like it's all part of a life
Yeah,
experience
nah. I
that
mean,
I have
it
not
really,
much control
really,
over.
it just so happens, right, that we do music and run in the same circles, right?
Yeah,
And the commonality is there, but like really, like it goes beyond just the musical thing. This is a life journey that we just, you know what I mean? Like
It's
this
like
was
a
your life
yeah,
journey,
history.
and that's what makes it like, like entertaining and just like a
yeah,
pleasure. Like
You're
it's like,
also
yo, it was your life journey and your shit is unique to you. And for
yeah.
me, speaking for both me and Holden, right? I'm speaking for everybody today.
you got it,
I'm
man.
just like, I'm just gonna go ahead and speak for people and shit.
It's because
But like
it's a
speaking
late
for
show,
us,
right?
it's
It's a later hour than normal, and so it's less
yeah.
my time of day. Now Flacco's like, this is when I.
Speaking for everybody, left and right out this bitch. But like speaking for us, like that's like the coolness of it, right? Is like hearing somebody else's life journey and like the uniqueness
Yeah.
of that story, And your story was unique and fantastic. And
Thank you,
I'm
bro.
like, you know what I mean? Look forward to like seeing the rest of it unfold. You know what
Facts.
I'm
Me
saying?
too. Me too, man.
Honestly, it's
Word.
super dope that you shared it with us and that you took your time. And honestly, there are some serious knowledge nuggets baked into what you said, just life lessons. And I think like the biggest takeaway, yo, A, it could take a long time, and B, play nice with others, cause yo, people around you gonna help, and that was
That's
beautiful.
a fact.
Big time knowledge
Big
nuggets.
fact. Thank you.
And I appreciate
Thank
you
you,
sharing
bro.
that with us. I also just want to give a shout out to End of the Week, who have us here on their platform as we
Word.
have this
Yeah.
conversation, because it's super important to do that. Oh yeah, we should give out all the socials, and yours isn't your name, so it's better.
Shouts to Life
Was it
Sources.
at Maroon Waters? Is that your Instagram?
Yeah, Maroon Waters.
And
Hmm.
that's it. And then
And if you want to follow me on TikTok, it's maroon.waters. I just started to kind of get active on my
get
TikTok.
it. I appreciate the TikTok grind.
Hmm.
Um, and then also make sure to follow End of the Week because they're wonderful people. In my opinion, the easiest way
Yeah,
is to go to eodub.com. That's eodub.com, and all their stuff is there. And
you
it's the
too.
easiest way to find your preferred eodub consuming method. um, but yo, do you have anything coming in the near future for the people out there? I forgot to ask that.
No, not that I could think of right now.
Well,
But you
they
know, if you
could
follow me,
always stop by the Y on what was that
Facts.
again?
yeah, 90, yeah,
92nd
92nd
Street.
Street, Y, classic dance, legendary dance studio. We have our next show is March 11th,
Mm.
and we do it every month. It's a very dope show, very fun. And just you can also follow Layer Rhythm. Follow LAYERH Y, however you spell rhythm, but there's one R. Layer Rhythm. That's my crew that I rock with.
Facts.
Yeah,
Awesome.
on Instagram.
Thank you so much for
Work.
coming through, man. Honestly, it's amazing. Thank
Yeah.
you all who watched it in the lives on the various live places you are. You guys are all wonderful. Cause some people always be sticking through it. It's like you might think it's not cool, but
Yeah,
people be sticking through and listening to it.
Yeah.
Appreciate
that's
all
the
of y'all
stuff.
who gonna watch it in the future. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And yeah, on that note, honestly, live long and prosper, everyone. It was great to have you here.
Gang, gang. Word. Be safe.
Peace, y'all. Thank you.